Chapter 2279. Su Fong activated the jailer's token, and at the same time activated the Sin Fruit's aura, easily entering the Sin Garden's barrier. Looking over, the world was gloomy, making people feel extremely oppressed. Although he had the jailer's token and the Sin Fruit's ability, Su Fong still felt an astonishing shackle. His strength was suppressed to half. The space was barren. It was completely different from what Su Fong imagined, a scene of treasures and spiritual items everywhere. In the world, the natural spirit Qi was extremely thin. It was filled with a kind of evil aura and baleful aura. Su Fong flew forward. All he saw was a barren desert. He couldn't sense any signs of life. About 3 days later, finally, he saw a large tree on the ground. Its bare branches reached towards the sky. From afar, it looked like a withered hand that wanted to tear the space apart. Su Fong used his great perfection ability to sense the tree. He was shocked to find that the tree contained a vast amount of life force and boundless wood type essence. It didn't look like a withered tree at all. Bang! The tree's branches suddenly attacked Su Fong. It instantly crossed the distance. Like a demonic hand, it wanted to grab Su Fong. Su Fong was scared witless at this time. The jailer's token in his body automatically exploded with a divine aura. The divine aura wasn't very strong, but the tree was very afraid. It quickly shrank back. Su Fong's figure flashed, quickly arriving in front of the tree. The tree was obviously very afraid of the jailer's token's divine aura. It was so scared that it kept trembling. Su Fong used his great perfection ability to sense carefully. He found that this tree was very strange. It had its own consciousness, but it was definitely not a tree demon. It didn't have any demonic Qi. It had life force. At the same time, it had a very high-level wood-type essence. And it also contained the aura of the wood-type Grand Tao. This should be an expert that cultivated the wood-type Grand Tao. After being shackled, he used a supreme forbidden technique to plant this tree. From a blood Qi and wood-type Grand Tao aura. This person was at least an area lord when he was alive. Su Fong speculated. He left the tree and flew straight into the depths of the Sin Garden. Along the way, Su Fong encountered many powerful and strange beings. There were mountains that could run, flowers that looked like human faces, clouds that were constantly changing their forms, and even a lake that could emit laughter. Even though these spirit treasures were very strange, all of them had one thing in common. And that was that they contained boundless natural essence of the heavens and the earth, vital blood, and profound ultimate profundities of the heaven Tao. These spirit creatures of different shapes and sizes were all cultivated by the powerful beings sealed in the divine prison of heaven's law using restrictive spells. To Tao integration stage immortals. Any spirit creature was a supreme cultivation divine object and was comparable to an ordinary spirit creature of creation. However, Su Fong was a little disdainful. Ordinary Tao integration stage spirit items were not very helpful to his cultivation. If it wasn't for the restriction in the Sin Botany Garden, where they could only take one Fae, Su Fong naturally wouldn't let go of any of them. There are so many heaven and earth spiritual treasures, but I can only take one. This is too torturous. Su Fong really couldn't make a decision and could only look on enviously. Since I've come to the Sin Garden and can only choose one, then I have to choose the best one. It would be best if it could help me form the 72nd Yang Meridian. Su Fong settled down and continued to project his great perfection stage power, searching everywhere in the Sin Garden for a suitable spirit creature. Unknowingly, Su Fong went deep into the Sin Garden. He encountered more and more spirit creatures, and they were getting stronger and stronger. Su Fong's Warden token had already lost its deterrent effect. Fortunately, he had the Sin Fruit. The aura he released to those spirit creatures was even more deterrent than the Warden token, making those extremely strange spirit creatures feel abnormally fearful. Otherwise, even if Su Fong wasn't devoured by those spirit creatures, he would have to go through many fierce battles. About 3 years, Su Fong had already entered the deepest part of the Sin Garden. Su Fong continued to release his sensing power, not daring to give up at all. That spirit flower's aura, is almost at the peak of Lord level. Heavens, that black stone, is actually a peak Lord level expert, a demon god refined by the divine prison of law's forbidden technique. It actually still has the aura of life and demon chi. The spirit creatures here became denser and denser. They were all cultivated by the Lord-level experts, suppressed by the divine prison of law using forbidden techniques. Some were even at the peak of Lord level. The sin fruit had already lost its effect. Su Fong was shocked and had no choice but to be careful. How could he be careless? There were so many spirit creatures and treasures everywhere, but none of them were not fatal. If he was careless, he might even lose his life here. Further ahead, a huge sunflower more than 60 meters tall appeared in Su Fong's sight. This sunflower was really a little too shocking. It looked like a towering tree, emitting a shocking pure yang aura, like a divine sun. This sunflower contains such a shocking pure yang aura. If I devour it, I'll definitely be able to develop a yang meridian. This is it. This incomparably mystical sunflower made Su Fong's eyes incomparably hale and hearty. As a result, Su Fong carefully flew toward the sunflower. Unexpectedly, when he was still more than 100 miles away from the sunflower, a human face suddenly condensed on the flower disc of the sunflower. The stem also quickly transformed into a human body. How dare a puny prison guard enter this place? Kid, become my fertilizer. Your body's vitality is very majestic, and it even has an aura that I like. Come here. The sunflower's face revealed a sinister smile. Suddenly, rays of sun like Xian Guang bloomed, as if a blazing sun had risen into the sky. Su Fong instantly fell into a world of burning flames. The sunflower's strength was comparable to that of a peak Lord-level expert. It was only one step away from the peak of venerable sovereigns. It was too shocking. The world released by the sunflower rapidly contracted, rapidly sucking Su Fong toward the huge flower disc. The face on the flower disc bared its sharp teeth, about to swallow Su Fong. You want to devour my Su Fong? Not so easy. Su Fong did not hesitate to use the yin-yang transformation, a terrifying divine aura that could turn all things in the world into primal chaos erupted with a loud bang. Such remarkable power. You're. A horrified expression suddenly appeared on the sunflower monster's face. Su Fong's current yin-yang transformation could kill middle-rank lords, but it could not threaten this sunflower. Su Fong had originally planned to use the yin-yang transformation to break the sunflower's shackles by surprise, then take out the origin holy mirror to absorb it. If there was no other way, he could only use his final trump card and join forces with Shu Wanjin to use the yin-yang transformation and activate the origin holy mirror to suppress this monster. If even this could not deal with the sunflower monster, then Su Fong could only be considered unlucky. QL 11 unexpectedly. The sunflower monster seemed to have a vague impression of Su Fong's handprint and instinctively felt a sense of fear. What was particularly shocking was that, as the yin-yang transformation was used, the power within the entire Sin Garden's inner world was drawn in by the yin-yang transformation. It felt as if Su Fong had become the supreme ruler of Sin Garden at that moment. A strange and incredibly powerful heavenly Tao order power surged between heaven and earth, gathering towards Su Fong. The sunflower monster's world collapsed with a loud bang. Su Fong was shocked and stunned. The yin-yang transformation can actually control Sin Garden's heavenly Tao power. Moreover, it's not just any heavenly Tao power, but a power of order that maintains the operation of heavenly Tao. How can this be? Su Fong vaguely understood. The divine prison of heaven and earth came from the celestial worthy mountain. The heavenly Tao power in Sin Garden was a power of heavenly Tao order. The supreme handprint of the yin-yang transformation came from the origin sacred mirror. The origin sacred mirror was definitely connected to the celestial worthy mountain in countless ways, so it made sense that the yin-yang transformation could control heavenly Tao order. Just as Su Fong was stunned, the sunflower monster's face rapidly vanished into the flower disc before withering rapidly. It produced over 1,000 dark golden sunflower seeds, which fell to the ground and immediately vanished. The sunflower had been reduced to ashes, dispersing with the wind. It's actually fled? How can a monster that's equivalent to a peak overgod flee without a fight? Su Fong was completely stunned. He was forced to use the handprint he had formed. Shocking power of order enveloped the region where the sunflower was before, erupting with the might of the yin-yang transformation that reversed the heavenly Tao and returned everything to the origin of the heavenly Tao. All the matter and presence within 100 kilometers collapsed under the boundless might of the yin-yang transformation. They rapidly gathered before Su Fong as chaotic qi. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Around a dozen dark golden sunflower seeds flew towards Su Fong uncontrollably. They struggled wildly in an attempt to break free from the restraints of the yin-yang transformation. Where do you think you're going? With a flip of his right hand, the Origin's sacred mirror appeared in Su Fong's hand. As he was worried about being exposed, it had been a very long time since he had last used the ancient mirror. However, Su Fong could use it fearlessly in the Sin Garden. As Su Fong's cultivation rapidly increased, he was about to reach the 8th transformation of the 9-yang transformation as well. It became extremely easy for him to use the Origin sacred mirror now. He raised the mirror to face the sunflower seeds, and scarlet light immediately enveloped them. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. The sunflower seeds turned into over a dozen dark golden xianguang. They were sucked into the mysterious space by the mirror without putting up any resistance at all. What a pity. There were over 1,000 sunflower seeds, but I only obtained a dozen or so. That's only 100th of the sunflower's essence. It might not even be enough to condense a yang meridian. Su Fong put away the Origin's sacred mirror as he felt a sense of regret. However, the dozen or so dark golden sunflower seeds each contained an astonishing pure yang aura. Even if they couldn't reach the 8th transformation of the yang meridian, they would definitely be extremely useful for cultivating the 9-yang transformation. I only obtained 100th of the sunflower monster. I should be able to obtain another spiritual item. Furthermore, after using the yin-yang transformation, I can control the Sin Garden's heavenly Tao powers. Even if I take a few more treasures, the Sin Garden shouldn't send down any heavenly punishment. Chapter 2280. Su Fong wiped his sweat and found a desolate place. He carefully sensed that there was no danger in the surroundings. Then, he activated the heaven-concealing star flag to cover an area of 5,000 kilometers, isolating himself from the outside world. Although using the yin-yang transformation this time did not consume as much energy as before, it still consumed nearly half of the yin-yang world's power. There were dangers everywhere in Sin Botany Garden. He had to maintain peak condition at all times. Otherwise, he might die here. That would not be worth it. He formed a barrier around him and then prepared to create a time array formation. However, in the shackles of the world, the time array formation could not be successfully formed. Su Fong could only give up. He created a spell altar. Then, Su Fong formed a hand seal. His body collapsed and turned into a pool of blood. A blood-colored sky quickly formed in the sky. In the heaven underworld state, Su Fong began to wantonly consume creation holy pills and yin-yang true extreme pills to quickly recover his strength. About 100 years later, the energy consumed by Su Fong's heaven and earth Tao palace gradually recovered to its normal state. 100 years was just the blink of an eye for a Tao integration realm cultivator. It was not a long time. However, for Su Fong, who had astonishing recovery abilities, it was already long enough. The main reason was the shackles of Sin Botany Garden, which slowed down his recovery speed. It's time to consume the sunflower monster's seeds to break through the yang meridian. Su Fong took out the Origin holy mirror and injected his yang energy into the scarlet mirror. A scarlet xian guang shot out from the mirror, enveloping a total of 17 dark golden sunflower seeds. Although he was not confident of successfully forming the 72nd yang meridian, Su Fong was still filled with anticipation and a little nervous. He released the power of the yin-yang world and wrapped it around a sunflower seed. Who would have thought that the sunflower seed would release a force that resisted Su Fong with all its might? Every sunflower seed was merged with the origin holy mirror's domineering aura. However, they still had their own consciousness and rejected Su Fong. You've been fused with my supreme treasure, and you still want to resist me? Su Fong coldly shouted and forcibly pulled the sunflower seed out of the Xianguang. Then, a burst of 9-yang divine fire enveloped the sunflower seed and started to burn. Almost a month passed. Contrary to Su Fong's expectations, the outer shell of the flower seed was incomparably hard. Even with the tyrannical 9-yang divine flame, it was actually unable to refine it. After a month of burning, the outer shell did not show any signs of melting. A voice transmitted from the sunflower seed. A puny Dao integration stage cultivator like you dares to try and refine me? You'd better let me go obediently. Otherwise, when my true body comes, you won't be able to keep your life. You're just a monster, yet you dare to call yourself Lord? Su Fong couldn't help but find it funny. You should have been a peerless expert when you were alive. Why were you suppressed by the divine prison of law and turned into a monster in this sin garden? Who am I? Why can't I remember anything? Who are you? Why are you able to perform that supreme seal? Have you seen the Dharma seal I used before? I can't remember. I can't remember anything. No matter who you are, with your puny strength, don't even think about devouring me. Su Fongdao was disappointed. He thought that he could learn more about the origin of the yin-yang transformation. However, he was now certain that the yin-yang transformation and the origin sacred mirror were definitely from the celestial worthy mountain. As for why it was split into two and ended up in the myriad worlds and small worlds, Su Fong had no way of knowing. With my current strength, it's indeed difficult for me to devour you. However, you forgot about my supreme divine weapon. Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. He activated the origin sacred mirror and once again stored all the flower seeds into the divine weapon's internal space. Then, Su Fong peeled off a sun spirit and entered the ancient mirror's space. The mysterious crimson space was no longer as mysterious to Su Fong as before. Moreover, he had already integrated a small part of the array formation. He shackled the dozen or so sunflower seeds in the array inside the ancient mirror. Then, the Yang spirit activated the array with the power of Yang, releasing the true fire of the 9 suns, which enveloped the dozen or so sunflower seeds and burned crazily. At this time, Su Fong had already understood that the 9-yang true fire was not only a kind of supreme flame, but also a kind of extreme yang heavenly Tao power. There was no flame that could surpass the 9-yang true fire. In just half an hour, the outer shells of the sunflower seeds began to melt. The origin's sacred mirror's aura seeped into the seeds. At the same time, Su Fong's sun spirit also activated the charm god soul assimilation seal and began to devour the remnant consciousness inside the sunflower seeds. Damn it! How can a mere Tao integration cultivator have such an amazing divine weapon? It's even better than any creation divine weapon I've ever seen. Under the dual attack of the 9-yang true fire and the charm god soul assimilation seal, the sunflower seeds quickly melted into a drop of dark golden liquid. Then, they quickly vaporized and finally turned into nothingness. They turned into a scorching dark golden flame. This was no ordinary flame. It was formed from the essence of pure yang and contained an astonishing amount of yang power. The remnant consciousness of the essence spirit was also mercilessly devoured by Su Fong. QL 11-inch inside the primordial sacred mirror. How big of a wave can you stir up? Su Fong took out a ball of flame from the origin sacred mirror. Then he merged it with the power of the yin-yang world and absorbed it into the heaven and earth Tao palace. What Su Fong didn't expect was that before the world tree and the yang meridian could absorb it, the divine sun above the heaven and earth Tao palace suddenly trembled violently and erupted with a suction force. With a whoosh, the flame was sucked over. The flames in the divine sun surged and quickly merged with the flame. That divine sun was formed when the supreme existence of the imperial people stripped a small part of the power of the Shaoyang divine sun and injected it into Su Fang's heaven and earth Tao palace. Unexpectedly, it would take the initiative to absorb the pure yang essence of the sunflower monster. After devouring the ball of flame, the size of the divine sun didn't change, but the power of the sun it released became even more vast. Su Fang activated the Yang Meridian and the World Tree, and the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace immediately transformed into the state of the inner world. The power of the sun contained the ability to nurture all things in the world. The light of the divine sun enveloped the inner world, causing the entire universe to undergo a miraculous change. Su Fang could clearly sense that the growth of life in his inner world began to accelerate. Even the natal divine artifact that was being nurtured in his inner world began to transform at a faster rate. With the power of the sun, my inner world will no longer be a patch of darkness. It will give birth to life and take a step closer to the true inner world. Su Fang was enlightened. Next, Su Fang gave 2 of the remaining 10-odd balls of flame to the dragon bird and absorbed the rest into the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. After the divine sun absorbed the pure yang essence in the flames, the power of the sun it released became even more astonishing, causing the entire Heaven and Earth Tao Palace to change. The World Tree and the Yang Meridian were also absorbing the pure yang essence, causing Su Fang's Heaven and Earth Tao Palace to become even more profound, and the power of the yang became even more majestic. Chi. When the last ball of flame was absorbed by the World Tree, a shocking flame suddenly erupted from Su Fang's body. Su Fang was surprised and delighted. This flame was the tribulation fire that he had been waiting for a long time. Therefore, he began to control the power of his entire body to attack his physical body. After a few major circulations, the tribulation fire burned even more fiercely and enveloped him. It burned wildly as if it wanted to completely melt him. At the same time, Su Fang also activated the 9-yang divine fire and the illusory fire cloud. His entire body was in a state of burning. The flames were truly astonishing, covering an area of 1,000 feet. The power of the flames spread for nearly 100 miles. If it weren't for the sky concealing Star Flag, who knew how much trouble it would cause if the aura leaked out? The impurities in the placenta continued to surge out of his body. An astonishing impact erupted from his body, sweeping inside and outside. After a long time, the tribulation fire slowly disappeared. He controlled the power of advancement and began to attack his physical body. He sensed that the flesh membrane, barrier, divine aperture, and the interior of the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace were all condensing the 5th heaven mark. 5th heaven of the Tao integration realm. The power of advancement gradually dissipated. His meridians, flesh, blood, and yang spirit were all transforming. When everything calmed down, Su Fang had also completed this advancement. He had successfully advanced by a small step and stepped into the 5th heaven of the Tao integration realm. This advancement, apart from the sunflower monster's seed, was mainly due to the long period of consolidation and accumulation in the Temple of Sages. It was a matter of course for him to advance. A Tao integration realm true God was already considered a peerless powerhouse in the universe. Moreover, Su Fang's strength far surpassed that of true gods of the same level. Now that he had advanced by a step, it meant that he was one step closer to the peak of cultivation. I'll stabilize my state first. Then, I'll try to find the fortuitous encounter that will give birth to the 72nd Yang Meridian. Su Fang continued to settle down and swallow pills to recover the emptiness caused by the advancement. Just as Su Fang was advancing, more than a dozen figures appeared outside Zue Sin Garden. The person in the lead was a young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. His cultivation was only at the level of a high-level supreme god. However, his eyes were extremely deep, and occasionally, a strange blood-red light would flash through them. The dozen or so experts following him were all dressed like the G people. They seemed to be following him. Zue Sin Garden. Looking at the entrance of Zue Sin Garden, the young man's eyes were hale and hearty, and the blood-red light flashed rapidly. Yuan Fu, the Dao planting tree you spoke of is indeed here, but why is it empty? Where are the Dao planting fruits? A middle-aged man of the Ji people beside the young man looked at the empty tree and asked the young man in a deep voice. This man was ugly and had a lion's nose and a wide mouth. His voice was like the beating of a drum, causing the surrounding space to tremble slightly. The weaker Ji people even felt their blood boil. The young man named Yuan Fu swept the tree of Dao with his divine light. Strange. There should be many fruits of Dao on this tree of Dao. Why is there not a single one now? Chapter 2281. That young man, called Yuan Fu, was actually an expert from the devil dimension. Ji Shixing, who do you think you are? How dare you speak to this seat in such a tone? Yuan Fu snorted coldly. An evil and ruthless demonic aura rushed out of his body and swept towards the ugly Ji people. The Ji people expert called Ji Shixing's divine aura instantly changed. A vibrating sound erupted from his body, like the rumbling of war drums, forming a miraculous and powerful sound wave attack in the surroundings. Boom! Yuan Fu's demonic aura collapsed, and his body swayed. Ji Shixing retreated 3 steps, his face instantly turning pale. It was obvious that he was at a disadvantage. The surrounding Ji clan experts, as well as the Devil Dao experts who disguised themselves as Ji clansmen, were all shaken to the ground. Some of the weaker ones even spat out blood from their mouths. The demon expert Yuan Fu and the Ji people's expert Ji Shixing were both Lord-level experts, but Yuan Fu was stronger than Ji Shixing. Ji Shixing, remember your identity. Also, don't forget, if it wasn't for this seat, your Ji people wouldn't be able to take half a step into the divine prison of law. Yuan Fu's voice was filled with a strong demonic aura, filling the space in front of Sin Botany Garden with an evil aura. Ji Shixing snorted. My race is currently working with the demon race, risking our race's extinction. The fruit of Dao you promised is nowhere to be seen. How can this seat not be anxious? Yuan Fu frowned. All the Dao planting fruits on the Dao planting tree have disappeared. Judging by the traces, they must have been taken not long ago. Someone must have gotten there first. It's most likely that kid from the Luo clan. Then he continued, compared to the spiritual items in Sin Botany Garden, the fruit of Dao is nothing. Once we enter Sin Botany Garden, this seat will help you obtain the supreme spiritual items. Naturally, this seat can make up for it. Ji Shixing said worriedly, we won't stay in Sin Botany Garden for too long, right? If by any chance Su Fong enters the main hall first and obtains the supreme treasure of the divine prison of law, then the gains will not make up for the losses. After all, your Devil Dao and my Ji people's goal of entering the divine prison of law this time is to kill Su Fong besides searching for treasures. When we entered the front hall, Su Fong did not appear. What are you worried about? Looks like the Ji people are also scared out of their wits by Su Fong. She's just a rising genius. It's easy for you to say. If Su Fong could be killed so easily, your demon race and the forces established by the resurrected powerhouses wouldn't have put him on the second assassination list. This child has all sorts of divine abilities. I suspect that he has long since disguised himself and snuck into the divine prison of law. Yuan Fu laughed sinisterly and said, Di Yuan, Su Fong, devouring these 2 geniuses of the human race is definitely an extremely joyous matter. Kikik. Then Yuan Fu and Ji Shixing led more than a dozen experts into the Sin Garden. Looking at Yuan Fu's appearance, it seemed that he was very familiar with the Sin Garden and the divine prison of law's interior. It was indeed very strange. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After waiting for the experts of the Devil Dao and the Ji people to enter the Sin Garden, Di Yuan appeared in front of the garden about 3 months later. Di Yuan's white robe was still as white as snow without a speck of dust. It emitted a sacred and supreme aura that perfectly blended with the world of the divine prison of law. He was indeed worthy of being a supreme imperial people. Even in the divine prison of law, he could still control the aura of the divine prison of law. Sin Garden? It won't be too late to go to the main hall after taking the treasures in the Sin Garden. Di Yuan revealed a smile and stepped into the Sin Garden. In the depths of the Sin Garden, in a dark and cold area, Luo Xingtian had created a powerful barrier with array flags, isolating the outside world from the outside world. In the center of the formation, Luo Xingtian sat cross-legged on the ground and formed a mysterious seal. Vitality and blood qi constantly gushed out from his body. In front of him, there was a tree that was about 10 feet tall. This tree wasn't very tall, but emitted a deep and vast aura. It felt as if a mere tree could hold up the starry sky of the universe. The tree was filled with fruits. Each fruit emitted a dazzling starlight, just like the stars in the starry sky. Among them, there were 28 fruits that were especially bright. They were distributed in the 4 directions of the north, south, east, and west. They were arranged in a strange constellation. They were the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. The 4 symbols constellation represented the supreme heavenly Tao. This tree could actually manifest the supreme heavenly Tao. It was very extraordinary. The blood qi released by Luo Xingtian was continuously absorbed by the tree. The star-like fruits on the tree became brighter and brighter. At the same time, Luo Xingtian's aura became denser in the aura of the entire tree. When my supreme Luo clan's ancestor was guarding the divine prison of law, he constantly cultivated the tree of stars with the great Tao of stars. I didn't expect that it would help my Luo Xingtian. When I fuse with the tree of stars, I will have supreme talent and finally step onto the peak of the universe. I might even surpass heaven and earth like my ancestor. When I get the prison suppressing codex and the heaven supervisor token, Su Feng, Di Yuan, all of you will be trampled by my Luo Xingtian. The entire universe will belong to my Luo Xingtian. Luo Xingtian's face turned pale due to the loss of too much blood qi. His body trembled, and his aura became sluggish bit by bit. However, his face was filled with a smug smile. A supreme, domineering aura of supremacy appeared spontaneously at this moment. Huff, Su Feng let out a long breath. Counting with his fingers, more than 50 years had passed. Such a short period of time was not enough for him to reach the normal state of the 5th heaven of Tao integration stage. However, he had finally stabilized his cultivation base. There are treasures everywhere in Plant Sin Garden. It's time to search for treasures. Su Feng put away the sky-concealing star flag and walked out of the array formation. He projected his perfected ability. He sensed a shocking wave of wood elemental essence and vitality in the southeast. It also contained a mysterious dragon aura. Soon, he arrived above a valley. When he focused his gaze, he saw a forest in the valley. There was a tree almost 10,000 feet tall with luxuriant foliage. Its vitality, wood elemental essence, and dragon aura permeated the entire valley. Even the surrounding soil, rocks, and plants were tainted by this aura. They were growing extraordinarily and astonishingly. He sensed it carefully again. He discovered that this tree was actually a divine dragon with a cultivation base comparable to middle-rank lords. It was a spiritual object transformed by a heavenly rule palace powerhouse using a forbidden secret skill. If it were a spiritual object like the sunflower monster, Su Feng would have to consider carefully. However, he had no reason to hesitate now that he was facing a spiritual object with middle-rank lord-level cultivation. Su Feng immediately took out the Chaos Origin Holy Mirror and raised it to face the Quasi-Valley. He activated the Nine-Yang power within him and entered the Chaos Origin Holy Mirror. Swish! A red glow instantly enveloped the entire valley, including the spiritual tree that the divine dragon had transformed into. Roar! 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 The tree shook violently, letting out a series of furious roars that resembled a divine dragon. Its branches swept wildly, raising the surrounding forest to the ground. Even the surrounding mountain peaks were instantly shattered. The tree rapidly turned into an illusory state, consolidating into a gigantic green dragon that was 10,000 feet long. Its tail swayed, releasing a divine might that shook heaven and earth. It charged out of the Chaos Origin Holy Mirrors area of effect. How can I let a treasure that's right in front of me escape? Su Fong projected divine might from within his body. It rapidly transformed from an illusory state into a real world, enveloping the gigantic green dragon within. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fong's world shackles could not hold out for more than 5 breaths under the gigantic green dragon's attack before they shattered with a loud bang. However, it was also at this moment that Su Fong activated the Chaos Origin Holy Mirror. An even more shocking red glow erupted and engulfed the gigantic dragon with a whoosh. He was instantly sucked in, and his body rapidly shrank. Finally, he turned into a green Xianguang and burrowed into the mirror. Another spiritual item in my hands. QL11 Su Fong was overjoyed. Then, he felt the world tree and Yang Meridian become empty. The world that was projected to the outside of his divine body was broken. Then, he activated the Chaos Origin Holy Mirror to absorb spiritual items that were equivalent to middle-rank lords. Suddenly, dark clouds rolled in the sky of Botany Garden's inner world. Terrifying calamity power brewed in the dark clouds. Bolts of lightning darted around in the dark clouds. An intense and cold heavenly Tao order power enveloped every corner of the world. All the spiritual items in Botany Garden trembled under this supreme power. It was as if doomsday was coming. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Su Fong's divine aperture's heavenly secret life, shrinking technique, Tao runes, and heavenly expansion, mysterious Jiezhen runes were constantly flashing rapidly. They were warning Su Fong that a destructive danger was coming. Luo Xingtian was right. I can only take one treasure. If I take it, I'll be suppressed. It was impossible for Su Fong not to be afraid. His body was trembling. He waved his hand, and a flying sword with a faint purple aura flew out. After activating it, it turned into 2 sword gleams, one black and one white. Mysterious purple aura lingered around him and circled around him. This flying sword was a superior grade Dharma treasure that Su Fong had refined during the Yuan Tiangong Weapon Tripod Selection Festival. Although it was only superior grade, Su Fong had infused a wisp of purple aura Dharma spirit into this flying sword. He had also imbued the yin-yang transformation seal. Therefore, it combined the purple aura Dharma spirit and the supreme power of the yin-yang change. This power enveloped Su Fong. The heavenly Tao order power in the sky seemed to have sensed it. The thunder dissipated and the dark clouds quickly disappeared. The power of the yin-yang change has indeed stopped Botany Garden from punishing me. Ha! I'm rich. I'm rich now. Originally, he could only take one treasure. Now, it meant that he could take more. How could Su Fong not be surprised and delighted? He stopped in the valley to recover his strength. Then, he continued to search for treasures. Deep in Botany Garden, poof! Luo Xingtian, who was fusing with the Tree of Stars, was affected by the turbulence in Botany Garden. His connection with the Tree of Stars was suddenly cut off. Luo Xingtian had already consumed a lot of energy. At this moment, he could not bear it anymore. He spat out a mouthful of blood and smashed a large hole in the ground. Chapter 2282. Luo Xingtian's integration with the Tree of Stars was interrupted, so he had no choice but to swallow pills to replenish his vitality. He would continue the integration after he had recovered a little. As for Su Fong, Luo Xingtian thought that he was dead for sure, so he did not take him to heart. In the valley, Su Fong found a cave, created a formation, and sat down cross-legged in the cave. Although the treasures in Botany Garden are good, it's not that easy to get them. I took too much a risk just now. My greed almost attracted Botany Garden's heavenly punishment power. Su Fong felt a lingering fear. He then swallowed creation pills and began to recover his previous consumption. He was prepared to return to peak condition before integrating with the spiritual being that had transformed from the divine dragon. The spiritual being was clearly a divine dragon with abilities comparable to middle-rank lords. It had been shackled, refined, and sealed in Botany Garden by the supreme powerhouses of the divine prison of heaven's law using supreme restrictive spells. It felt like the entire Botany Garden was a vegetable garden filled with all sorts of vegetables that could be retrieved when needed. He transformed into his heaven underworld state and swallowed pills continuously. At the same time, Su Fong consolidated his physical body in the middle of the bloody water. He grabbed a Xianguang from the Origin Holy Mirror. The shadow of a divine dragon was shackled inside the Xianguang. It was in a wonderful state between reality and nothingness. It exuded a majestic life aura and dragon aura, as well as a mysterious aura that only the Origin Holy Mirror possessed. What a pity! A middle-rank Lord Powerhouse was suppressed by the divine prison of heaven's law and ended up like this. Su Fong was filled with emotion. He had a deeper understanding of the heavenly Tao's ruthlessness and cruelty. He then slowly released the yin-yang world power, which seeped into the Xianguang and into the divine dragon shadow. He stripped the life aura and dragon aura from it bit by bit and absorbed them into his physical body. At the same time, he let the Tree of World absorb the dragon aura. Extremely pure dragon aura seeped into his entire body and the bloody water around him. It was not just dragon aura, but also terrifying life energy. He sensed that his perfection-level physical body and various abilities were in the process of self-improvement and transformation, especially his dragon-slaying true body. Su Fong's body, as well as his blood, was burning with the flame of life. Then, the flame of life circulated in his body, causing his body to grow stronger and stronger. The energy he had consumed was also rapidly recovering. This was only a small part of the fusion. The divine dragon's shadow in the Xianguang had only become slightly fainter. If he could devour them all, how shocking would that be? About 10 years. I've fully recovered from the exhaustion of my body. I need to leave this place as soon as possible and search for the opportunity to successfully form 72 yang veins. Besides, this place is not very safe. Su Fong suddenly opened his mouth and sucked in the surrounding blood water and blood dome. He returned to his original form and left the cave in a flash. Appearing on a ridge on the right side of the valley, Su Fong used his sensing power and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to project it into the depths of Sin Botany Garden. Suddenly, it was not the aura of a deity, but rather a demonic aura. It was faintly discernible, and if one did not have the ability of a great perfection saint, it would be impossible to sense the existence of this aura. To think that I would encounter a demon expert. It's that demon expert who is hiding among the G people. He has also entered Sin Botany Garden. Su Fong's divine light changed instantly. Judging from the aura, the strength of this demon expert was about the same as that of a middle-rank lord god like Shangwuji. Moreover, the strength of a demon expert was much stronger than that of a deity of the same level. This demon expert was not someone that Su Fong could deal with at the moment. Just as he was about to leave quietly, a demonic light suddenly flashed in front of him. A dark shadow rapidly condensed from nothingness. A mere Tao integration, first firmament cultivator, actually has such astonishing sensing power. Since you have seen me, then stay here obediently. An extremely young voice came from the illusory figure, and then the illusory figure quickly became real. In Sin Botany Garden, this demon expert is not shackled and can use such a remarkable ability. Su Fong felt a chill seeping out of his body. He was shocked. Lord-level powerhouses could ignore the shackles of heaven and earth and the obstruction of space. Their bodies could transform from a corporeal state to an illusory state, projecting their sensing power to places that were endless distances away. However, this was Sin Botany Garden. It was definitely not an ordinary shackle. Instead, it was a shackle formed by a type of supreme, heavenly Tao order power. Even a sovereign powerhouse would be restrained here. This demon expert clearly possessed some powerful, remarkable ability or some hidden technique that allowed him to ignore the world's shackles of Sin Botany Garden. Wherever his mind went, his demonic body would follow. In an instant, a monstrous demonic aura blotted out the sky, enveloping Su Fong and his surroundings. He felt like he was currently in a demonic realm. His entire body was shackled, and the blood chi in his body was flowing wildly. There was also an evil intent that was constantly destroying his mind and Taoist heart. Although I can't fight middle-rank lords now, I'm definitely not some weakling who can't fight back. A flame divine might erupted from Su Fong's body. Not only did the divine might contain the pure yang divine might of the 9 yang divine fire, but it also contained the dragon bird's sun divine might. Sizzle. The surrounding demonic aura seemed to be boiling. It rapidly melted under Su Fong's divine might. Su Fong flipped his right palm, and the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle appeared in his palm. QL11, although the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle was not as good as the sky-piercing golden rainbow, it had become a royal gray divine weapon that could travel through the void after being reintegrated by the golden rainbow king. As the golden rainbow flew, Su Fong's figure followed the golden rainbow and traveled a distance of 1,000,000 miles in an instant. This was due to the shackles of Sin Botany Garden, so the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle could not unleash its full power. If it was in nature, its power would be even greater. Interesting. You've actually concealed your true strength. Moreover, you even possess the pure yang energy that can restrain demonic aura. How interesting. The shadow condensed into a young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. The surrounding demonic aura gathered in his body. It was the demon expert Yuan Fu who had disguised himself as a G People's expert. You're just a path integration cultivator. Wouldn't it be a joke if I let you escape from me? The young man smiled coldly. His figure swayed, and his body turned into nothingness again. He disappeared from where he was without a trace. Buzz! Buzz! A sense of evil aura swept past Su Fong's body. The Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique and the Heaven's Derivation mystic solution both sent out a warning at the same time. Damn it! This demon expert is so fast. Su Fong did not have time to catch his breath. He activated the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle again. After 3 consecutive times, Su Fong could not shake off the demon expert's pursuit. Although the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle was fast, how could it be faster than the demon expert's sense of perception? I have to counterattack. If I keep running for my life, I won't be able to escape from this demon expert's pursuit. Su Fong's eyes flashed with ruthlessness and decisiveness. He kept the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. Heaven's Derivation mystic solution disrupt the heavenly secrets. Then, he quickly formed a seal and used the Heaven's Derivation mystic solution to disrupt the heavenly secrets within 1,000 miles. In the Sin Plant Garden, the Heaven's Derivation mystic solution was also suppressed. However, it was still a supreme ability on the same level as the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique. When it was used by Su Fong, all the heavenly secrets within 1,000 miles were disrupted. This made it difficult for the demon expert to sense Su Fong's existence. At the same time, Su Fong released the dragon bird again. In just 3 short breaths, Yuan Fu's sinister voice sounded again. Little ant, you made me waste so much time. Before he finished speaking, Yuan Fu's figure appeared again. Chi, the sun god's arrow suddenly shot out from the dragon bird's eyes. Immediately after, another burst of sun essence fire gushed out, drowning Yuan Fu's figure. Humph! Yuan Fu grunted. His figure swayed. He was actually injured by the dragon bird's divine power. Then, a demonic light exploded, melting away the dragon bird's divine power. Only then did his body become real. The dragon bird suddenly raised its head and let out a cry that reverberated through the world. A divine sun hundreds of feet in size quickly formed above Yuan Fu. At the same time, a divine power that contained the power of time and fate that even Yuan Fu could not fathom formed a supreme, heavenly Tao power that could reverse the past and future, enveloping him. In Su Fong's eyes, the black and white yin-yang vortex spun wildly, shooting out Xinguang that landed on Yuan Fu's body. Light and shadows were reflected around Yuan Fu, reversing the past, controlling the future, mediating destiny technique. In a flash, Su Fong reached out and grabbed a light and shadow. The scene that appeared was the moment when Yuan Fu had just appeared and had yet to form his body. Yuan Fu's divine light changed instantly. Then his divine body quickly blurred. He was about to disappear from this moment and return to the moment in the past. At this time, the divine sun formed by the dragon bird's innate ability suddenly exploded. The astonishing power of the sun surged out and hit Yuan Fu's figure. The figure that Su Fong had grabbed originally existed in the past. After being attacked by the dragon bird with all its might, it immediately shattered and vanished into nothingness. Run! A heavenly Tao backlash surged out of nothingness and hit Su Fong, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. His aura immediately withered, and in a short moment, he became an old man in his 60s. Not only that, he had also lost a great deal of luck. Dark clouds enveloped him. Fortunately, Su Fong had only gone back in time for an instant. Otherwise, the heavenly Tao backlash from using mediating destiny technique on a middle-rank lord would be enough to kill him. The dragon bird's aura withered as well. However, it looked much stronger than Su Fong. At least it could still fly. It spread its wings and flew over, carrying Su Fong swiftly into the depths of Botany Garden. A moment later, Yuan Fu's figure reappeared from nothingness. However, he looked very wretched. His body and face were covered in wounds caused by the sun's god power. His demonic chi was also extremely chaotic. It was clear that he was severely injured. If I'm not mistaken, this person is definitely not a nobody. He's Su Fong in disguise. He must have fused with the fruit of sin and obtained the human skin that can change his appearance and aura. I'm pretty lucky to have encountered Su Fong in Botany Garden. Even if I don't want the spiritual items in Botany Garden, as long as I can suppress Su Fong, the reward will be enough for me to return to my former peak ability. Chapter 2283. Su Fong did not escape far. The monstrous demonic aura quickly covered the sky and enveloped him. Heaven and earth turned into an evil demonic realm in an instant. Demonic clouds rolled, demonic flames burned, and a sinister and evil aura spread. Su Fong, you can't escape. Devouring a human prodigy really makes me excited. Demonic shadows walked out of the demonic chi world and surrounded Su Fong from all directions. Their hideous laughter contained an evil power that could destroy one's will and Tao heart. I've been exposed. I'll go all out, Su Fong exclaimed in his heart. At such a critical moment, he could no longer care about the life and providence he had consumed. He merged with his heavenly Tao and projected the power of the yin-yang world outside his body. Boom, boom, boom. It was as if heaven and earth were being split open. The demonic realm that Yuan Fu created opened up, shattering the surrounding demonic aura layer by layer. He's actually reached level 5 of the Tao integration realm, as expected of a peerless prodigy of the human race. No wonder the demonic path, the evil path, and the forces that resurrected powerhouses have listed him as a must-kill target. Once he grows up, he'll be a huge threat. Such a peerless prodigy is going to die in my hands. My providence is really amazing. Yuan Fu was very pleased. He activated the demonic aura to corrode and demonize Su Fong's Tao integration realm layer by layer. With Su Fong's current strength, he could easily defeat an ordinary lower-rank lord. However, Yuan Fu was an intermediate-rank lord. Moreover, he had some kind of restrictive spell that made it difficult for Sin Plant Garden to form a shackle on him. This further widened the gap between him and Su Fong. Under Yuan Fu's attack, Su Fong's world quickly shrank. In less than half an hour, it was suppressed to a size of 100 miles. I, Su Fong, have never had any enmity with the demon race. We also have no conflict in the Heavenly Ruin Temple. Why are you hunting me down? Su Fong looked like an arrow at the end of its flight. He shouted indignantly, "You humans have occupied all the realms and forced the demon race into the dark world. Now that the world has changed, it's time for a change. The human race's Emperor Realm Masters are overestimating themselves and actually want to cultivate geniuses to enter the exalted celestial mountain to defy the heavens and change their fate. You are the #1 genius of the human race, even surpassing Di Yuan of the imperial people. Naturally, the demon race wants to kill you in advance. One of my important targets in entering the divine prison of law is you. So how can I let you go so easily? If you want to blame someone, blame it on your bad luck. Yuan Fu's smug voice sounded from the world of darkness. Su Fong asked in surprise, "Divine prison of law? How did you know that this is the divine prison of law? And you're not shackled? You're about to die, so there's no harm in me telling you. I am the supreme expert of the devil race, who was suppressed by the divine prison of heaven's law. During the first upheaval, the seal of the prison-suppressing codex that shackled me loosened, and one of my doppelgangers luckily escaped from the prison-suppressing codex. When I was escaping from the divine prison of heaven's law, I successfully took over the body of one of the guardians of the divine prison of heaven's law. The body I'm currently residing in is that expert's, so the divine prison of heaven's law is unable to bind me. I've explained so much to you. Now you can die in peace. Don't worry, I will devour your primordial spirit and keep your corporeal body. I will use your corporeal body to strengthen myself, so you can continue to live in another way." Yuan Fu replied coldly. "A mere clone dares to be so arrogant?" Su Fong smiled instantly. It was the same domineering smile as before. A powerful aura burst forth, and a heavenly law avatar appeared. Swish! Swish! Rays of Yang spirit quickly merged into the fruit of the tree of Dharma. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, blue sky, yellow springs, great Tao of time, yin-yang change, and all kinds of incomparably powerful divine abilities were displayed by Su Fong at the same time. Boom! Boom! It was as if heaven and earth were falling apart. The various divine abilities unleashed by the Dharma idol caused the entire world of Botany Garden to tremble. Their powers were truly astonishing, enough to threaten an ordinary middle-rank lord. Yuan Fu was caught off guard. Yuan Fu's world of darkness was shattered by the terrifying attacks and completely collapsed. Yuan Fu staggered, and that human cultivator's face turned ghastly pale. Su Fong leaped onto the dragon bird's back and was carried away by the dragon bird. Su Fong had expended a great deal of his life force and luck to perform the mediating heavenly pivot. This time, he had merged with his heavenly Tao and almost exhausted all the energy in the heaven and earth Tao palace. Su Fong almost fainted as soon as he stepped onto the dragon bird's back. His body seemed to have collapsed, and more than half of his long hair had turned white. His aura had also become dispirited, making him look like an old man. He took out 3 blood crystals. All of them were condensed from the frost plant's life force and blood. At the moment, it was difficult for him to transform his corporeal body into blood. He could only use the old method, which was to cut open his chest and press the blood crystals directly into his heart. The moment the blood crystals came into contact with Su Fong's blood, they melted immediately and turned into burning flames. Then, his heart was like a water pump, sending majestic life force to every corner of his corporeal body. Fortunately, he had advanced to the next level and integrated with a small portion of the divine dragon's spiritual item, causing his great perfection corporeal body to become even more powerful. His life force had also become even more majestic. Otherwise, he would not have had the chance to escape this time. However, he was not completely out of danger yet. That demon tribe powerhouse could come at any time. Buzz, buzz. There are G people and demon tribe powerhouses. There's even a middle-rank lord powerhouse among them. This is going to be troublesome. Su Fong recovered slightly and immediately took out more than 10 runic talismans. He clasped his hands together, and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique runic talismans shattered one by one. The might of the heavenly secret life shrinking technique and the might of the heavenly secret solution erupted, silently concealing the aura within a radius of 50,000 kilometers. Even heavenly secret was completely disrupted. Now, Su Fong had a brief respite. He got the dragon bird to fly deep into the mountains and randomly found a cave. Then, he crushed a heavenly secret life, shrinking technique runic talisman to conceal his aura. He then sat cross-legged in the cave and devoured blood crystals and pills without regard for anything else. About 3 months later, Su Fong finally recovered slightly. However, it was not much, only about 5 or 6 levels. The main reason was that he had used up too much energy this time. He could not use the azure falling blood dome to devour pills and spiritual items. Naturally, his recovery speed was much slower. Moreover, Su Fong had taken out the divine dragon's spiritual item, which had integrated a portion of its life force and wood-type essence. Otherwise, his recovery speed would be even slower. During this period, Demon Tribe and G-People powerhouses constantly released their sensing abilities to search for his aura. Fortunately, Su Fong had made preparations beforehand. Otherwise, he would have fallen into the hands of Demon Tribe and G-People powerhouses long ago. I can't stay here for long. Sooner or later, I'll be discovered by Demon Tribe and G-People powerhouses. But in this Sin Botany Garden, where is the safest place? QL11, Su Fong furrowed his brows. After pondering for a moment, Su Fong's brows relaxed. He formed a seal and performed the Heavenly Revolving Fate technique. However, the Heavenly Revolving Fate technique this time was not used against the enemy. It was also not used to reverse the past and change fate. Instead, it was used to deduce his fate and heavenly secrets to find a chance of survival. As a result, the consumption of energy from using the Revolving Destiny technique this time was not great. It was still within the range that Su Fong could bear. Otherwise, he would not have dared to use it again, even if he was 10 times more courageous. The only result would be death. The black and white yin-yang vortex rotated around Su Fong. Scenes of light and shadow constantly appeared. Dead end. There's no chance of survival. It's still a dead end. Su Fong continued to deduce. In the light and shadow that appeared, scenes of what would happen in the future were displayed. Different decisions would lead to different results, and the light and shadow displayed would also be different. However, no matter which direction he fled in, he would either be killed by the experts of the Devil Clan and the G-People, or be trapped in the danger of Sin Garden. Am I going to die here? Su Fong's heart sank to the bottom. Luo once said that in this world, there is no such thing as a hopeless situation. There are only people who are desperate. I don't believe that I can't find a chance to survive. Su Fong gritted his teeth and performed the Heavenly Revolving Fate technique again. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. This time, the scene that was displayed in the deduction was not from the Devil Clan and the G-People, but from Sin Garden. In this deduction, Su Fong killed his way out of the encirclement and fled to the deepest part of Sin Garden. The light screen displayed a chaotic void, but there was a shocking bloody light, indicating that escaping here was a dead end. However, Su Fong stared carefully and found that there was a faint purple gas in the bloody light. When he tried to deduce further, it was difficult to deduce what was in this area, and even more impossible to deduce what would happen. That was because Su Fong's cultivation was not high enough, and the power of the Heavenly Revolving Fate technique was not enough. In addition, what was hidden in that area was something that Su Fong could not deduce. There is a purple gas in the bloody light, indicating that there is a huge opportunity hidden in the great danger. Su Fong's spirit was lifted, and his eyes became hale and hearty. In any case, that is my only chance to escape. I have to give it a try no matter what. Even if I die there, it is much better than dying in the hands of the Devil Clan and the G-People. Su Fong no longer hesitated. Next, he swallowed more than half of the spiritual object transformed from the divine dragon in one breath. The life force that Su Fong consumed finally recovered by more than 70 or 80%, and his appearance also returned to that of a 20-year-old, nearly 30 years old. And the energy in his body, under the state of constantly swallowing the Creation Saint pill and Yin-Yang True Pole pill, also recovered to nearly 70%. Boom, boom, boom. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. Su Fong released his perfect sensing ability and was shocked to find that the G-People's expert had brought more than a dozen experts with him. They were activating their divine weapons and bombarding the ground in one area after another. Obviously, they wanted to use this method to force Su Fong to show himself. However, the expert from the Devil Clan did not show himself, and no one knew where he was hiding. Chapter 2284. Su Fong. We finally caught this brat. Su Fong was enveloped by the golden rainbow, formed by the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle's power. He was immediately discovered by the G-People's experts. Boom! Boom! The golden rainbow smashed through 7 barriers and finally slowed down. He was severely injured by Lord Yuan Fu and can't possibly recover fully. Capture him alive. Su Fong killed countless members of the G-People. Our peerless prodigies, Ji Wuji, Ji Feng, and Ji Feng all died because of him. This time we must skin him alive. Isn't it too easy for him to be skinned alive? We must skin his soul alive and let him be burned by the demonic flames for all eternity. The G-People's experts gritted their teeth and charged towards Su Fong. The demon race's experts stayed in the distance and had no intention of attacking. They merely formed a large circle and blocked Su Fong's path of escape. The G-People's expert, Ji Shixing, also had no intention of attacking. He looked coldly at Su Fong from afar. You want to capture Su Fong? You're far from enough. Su Fong snorted in disdain. He simply put away the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle and projected the heavenly Tao's power from his internal world, enveloping the 7 G-People's experts. The G-People's cultivators who entered the Divine Law prison were all experts. Apart from Ji Shixing, the weakest of the other G-People's experts was a mid-stage Tao Integration Realm Heaven Monarch. The most powerful one was a peak-stage Tao Integration Realm Lord. In their opinion, with so many Tao Integration Realm experts surrounding Su Fong, who was a 5th-stage Tao Integration Realm cultivator and injured by the demon race's Yuan Fu, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for them to capture him? Who knew? Under the might of Su Fong's world, the 7 G-People's experts felt that the heavenly Tao was being isolated. The astonishing shackles made it so that those below the domain Lord level couldn't even merge with the heavenly Tao. Su Fong's heavenly Tao divine power was unleashed from his internal world. He was like a supreme ruler, unfettered by any shackles. In a flash, he appeared in front of a 4th Heaven Tao integration stage G-People. Grabbing at the air, this G-People's cultivator's blood chi, bloodline, and even soul were forcibly absorbed by Su Fong's blue sky underworld divine might. Then it was sucked into his divine body through his palm. QL11 in the blink of an eye, this G-People's expert turned into a dried corpse, floating in the world of Su Fong. Whoosh, whoosh. As Su Fong's body swayed, the divine power of the blue sky underworld erupted continuously. 3 more G-People's experts had their blood, and souls devoured and died on the spot. His life aura, which was originally 2 or 3 levels away from reaching its peak, rose rapidly in this short period of time and recovered to as much as 9 levels. The remaining 3 G-People's experts were instantly scared out of their wits. They unleashed their full strength and broke free from the shackles of Su Fong's world. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Ji Shixing roared furiously. The terrifying divine might of a Lord-level expert descended with a loud boom, enveloping Su Fong's world. In an instant, Ji Shixing's divine might rapidly materialize from illusion, forming a real world. Huge war drums rapidly appeared from all directions of Su Fong. They were as large as 1,000 feet and produced earth-shattering rumbling sounds. They gathered together and stirred up the space like a surging ocean, sweeping towards Su Fong. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fong's world was shaken by the sound of the drums and constantly shattered. After all, Ji Shixing was a middle-rank Lord-level expert. Among the G-People, he was a peerless expert who was second only to the 3 patriarchs. Although Ji Shixing's abilities were suppressed in Botany Garden and he could only unleash 60 to 70% of his abilities, it was still extremely shocking. Viciousness and decisiveness flashed through Su Fong's eyes. With a thought, his world exploded with a loud boom. Su Fong's world was formed by the condensation of divine might projected from the universe. When it exploded at that moment, its might was comparable to a full-powered attack from a peak middle-rank Lord-level powerhouse. Its might was unparalleled. Boom! Ji Shixing's world immediately collapsed. Even he, the Ji people, and the demon Dao experts in the distance were affected. Ji Shixing's body was sent flying violently. His divine body's defenses were shattered. Fortunately, he had a divine armor to protect him, so he was not seriously injured. The Ji people and demon tribe experts in the distance could not defend themselves against Su Fong's decisive attack. 3 of them died on the spot, while the others were all severely injured. Su Fong's self-explosion not only drained the power of his yin-yang world severely, but the Heaven and Earth Dao Palace also had very fine cracks. The world in his body also shook violently. He took a step forward and escaped into the void. He broke free of Botany Garden's shackles with all his might and instantly appeared several million kilometers away. Ji Shixing, how dare you let Su Fong escape? Humph, the Ji people are so useless. It's no wonder that the Ji people were defeated by Su Fong. A young man with thick eyebrows and large eyes escaped from the void and mocked Ji Shixing. Ji Shixing snorted. Su Fong escaped from you before. What right do you have to mock me? I let him escape the first time because I was careless. This time, he won't be able to escape from me, even if he escapes to the ends of the universe. Yuan Fu smiled coldly. An evil blood-red light surged in his eyes, and his body vanished from where he was in a flash. Su Fong had thrown caution to the wind at that moment. He unleashed his full power and fled for his life without regard for anything else. However, Yuan Fu caught up to him within a few breaths of time. There was a chaotic region ahead. It looked like there was nothing there, but it exuded an aura that made one's heart palpitate. The danger here is greater than anywhere else in Botany Garden. However, the most dangerous places often contain life. Su Fong gritted his teeth and entered the chaotic region. His figure instantly disappeared without a trace. A moment later, Yuan Fu appeared where Su Fong disappeared. He looked ahead with a look of dread and fear in his eyes. This place actually makes me shudder. I didn't expect there to be such a place in Botany Garden. No matter how dangerous it is, I can't let Su Fong escape. Yuan Fu snorted inexplicably and followed into the chaotic region. The moment Su Fong entered the chaotic region, he immediately felt that he had become immortal. His hearing, vision, smell, and other sensory abilities were suppressed to the extreme by an invisible force. His sensory range was less than 100 kilometers. His speed was also suppressed. He could barely fly. The circulation of his various powers also became sluggish. His cultivation was naturally suppressed as well. Su Fong cultivated the supreme heavenly Tao. In addition, his purple Qi Dharma spirit could control the heavens and earth. He had the ability to sense the power of the heavenly Tao. He was surprised to find that in this void of chaos, there was no natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth, nor was there any world energy. What made him feel shackled was a kind of innate heavenly energy. However, it was not chaos energy, but another kind of heavenly energy. Order. This power seemed to be born with the heavenly Tao. It maintained the operation of the heavenly Tao and the reproduction of all things. It was not as terrifying as the power of heavenly punishment or tribulation, but it was cold and strict. No one could violate it. It was vast and boundless. Whoosh! Su Fong heard the commotion behind him. He did not need to look to know that it was the demon race experts. His heart skipped a beat. He sped up and flew deeper into the chaotic region. The deeper he went, the stronger the power of the heavenly Tao order. Not only was his speed suppressed, but his strength was also gradually suppressed. The invisible power of order seeped into his body. His perfect body was slightly better. The power of the yin-yang world and his magic power were all shackled. His circulation speed was less than 1/10 of before. After traveling for more than 10 kilometers, Su Fong could not fly. He could only walk. Such a strange place. Looks like I have to catch Su Fong quickly and leave quickly. The deeper he went, the more frightened Yuan Fu felt. In this place, his demonic power was also suppressed. The body of the cultivator that he had taken over was also useless. However, the demon race's body was extremely strong. With the strength of his body, Yuan Fu was still much faster than Su Fong. Soon, he was less than 500 meters away from Su Fong. Su Fong, you better surrender. I will not hand you over to the G people. If you fall into my hands, I can still keep your body. If you fall into the hands of those stupid human cultivators of the G people, you will suffer a fate worse than death. Yuan Fu laughed sinisterly. His demonic voice that could destroy one's will and Tao heart was continuously released towards Su Fong. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fong suddenly unleashed the power of his perfect body. He took large strides forward and quickly widened the distance between the two of them. Your body is not bad. I like it. Yuan Fu was surprised. Then he sneered and sped up. After traveling for 5 or 6 kilometers, Su Fong's perfect body also began to crack. Blood seeped out from the cracks. At the same time, he was shocked to find that the power of the heavenly Tao that had seeped into his body had shackled his meridians, flesh, divine apertures, and even his Tao palace like chains. It was as if it was building a prison inside his body to imprison him. Su Fong, since I can't capture you alive, I can only kill you. Yuan Fu also sensed that something was wrong. If he continued, he would be completely shackled here sooner or later. Immediately, a mighty figure jumped out from his eyes and instantly traversed the distance between them. He grabbed Su Fong with his palm. It felt like the palm was going to crush Su Fong into pieces. However, at this moment, the power of the heavenly Tao suddenly became violent. It shackled Yuan Fu from the inside out. Even the mighty figure was instantly shattered and turned into nothingness. Damn it, what the hell is this place? Yuan Fu, a demon tribe powerhouse comparable to a middle-rank lord, was scared out of his wits at this moment. Without hesitation, Yuan Fu detonated the human cultivator's body that he had possessed. A ferocious-looking demon god borrowed the force of the explosion to charge out of the bloody mist. It flew out and escaped the chaos zone in one breath. What's that? Yuan Fu's attack on Su Fong caused a disturbance in the depths of the chaos zone. With his perfect vision, Su Fong caught a glimpse of a rainbow-colored rock. Although it was just a glimpse, Su Fong was still able to see the stone clearly. It was not a rock, but a blooming lotus the size of a millstone. It felt somewhat similar to the golden lotus stone flower that Su Fong had merged with in the small world. However, this lotus was extremely exquisite. It gave Su Fong a feeling that it was the work of nature. Chapter 2285. What is this? It can release the power of heavenly Tao order. The rainbow stone lotus quickly disappeared into the chaos and disappeared. However, the power of heavenly Tao order it released shackled Su Fong from the inside out. Su Fong felt that his entire body had become a part of the prison and was shackled by the power of heavenly Tao order. If this continued, he would be completely shackled here and be trapped to death. What should I do? Su Fong sensed his body. It was fine that he could see his perfect realm physical body, but the heaven and earth Tao palace had cracked because of the self-destruction of the world. Now, the heaven and earth Tao palace was his source of energy. Any slight damage would affect his future cultivation. He couldn't care about the future now. It was difficult to pass this hurdle. Inside the heaven and earth Tao palace, inside and outside his physical body, including his divine aperture, yang spirit, and dermic powers, everything was infiltrated by the power of heavenly Tao order and formed shackles. Suddenly, Su Fong's eyes became incomparably hale and hearty. The power of heavenly Tao order is also a kind of innate power of heavenly Tao. I will use the Great Yin Seal and the 9-Yang transformation to try to let the Yang Meridian and World Tree absorb and fuse them. The world in my body is a universe that contains all things. It contains the supreme heavenly Tao and will definitely contain the power of heavenly Tao order. In this way, I will no longer be shackled. I might even be able to control the power of heavenly Tao order. Su Fong actually wanted to absorb the power of heavenly Tao order. Such a thought was extremely bold. The power of Yin-Yang world, the great Yin seal. Su Fong activated the power of the world tree and the Yang meridian. The astonishing power of Yin-Yang world suddenly erupted and forcibly shook the power of heavenly Tao order out of his body. The shackles in the surrounding dozens of feet were shattered. He quickly formed a seal and used the great Yin seal. The supreme power of heavenly Tao, which was derived from all things in the world and evolved into all things in the world, suddenly burst out. The great Yin seal. Su Fong had comprehended the chaos sea and verified the yin-yang transformation. From it, he had comprehended two supernatural powers that he had created himself. Under the great Yin seal's power of heavenly Tao order, the surrounding power of order changed and turned into a mysterious power of creation that swept towards Su Fong. Qi. The power of the heavenly Tao order that was constantly crushing down crumbled layer by layer. The area around Su Fong was cleared of about 1 mile of empty space. The power of order was converted into the power of creation by the Great Development Seal. Then, it was absorbed by the Su Fong's Yang vein and world tree. The energy consumed by the self-destruction of the world was quickly replenished. However, Su Fong's actions had clearly infuriated the Rainbow Stone Lotus. The power of heavenly Tao order it released became even more violent. With the help of the purple cloud spirit, Su Fong could see chains condensed from the power of order. They emitted a terrifying aura that could shackle all things in the world as they surged over from all directions. The speed of the Great Development Seal is far from enough. I'll just use the Yang vein and the world tree to absorb it until the Rainbow Stone Lotus is sucked dry. Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. The 71 Yang meridians in his body and the world tree were activated at this moment. The entire heaven and earth Tao palace spewed out divine might. At the same time, Su Fong unleashed his ethereal quintessence, unleashing the power of his yin-yang world to absorb the power of the heavenly Tao order. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The chains formed from the power of heavenly Tao order were penetrated by Su Fong's power and then absorbed bit by bit. Finally, they turned into power that Su Fong could fuse with, causing the power in Su Fong's heaven and earth Tao palace to surge. However, the power released by the Rainbow Stone Lotus was so vast and majestic that Su Fong found it difficult to absorb it all in a short period of time. The chains shackled his body and seeped into his body. QL11 Su Fong gritted his teeth and absorbed the Qi of 9 Yin from the Chaos Essence Sacred Realm. The speed at which the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace absorbed it increased by 100-fold, continuously surging into the World Tree. The World Tree was like a huge black hole that began to directly absorb the power of heavenly Tao order. It was almost out of Su Fong's control and was like a surging river that could not be stopped. Rustle. The World Tree trembled violently. Although it did not grow, it became taller and more upright. It emitted a mysterious power of order, causing the entire heaven and earth Tao palace to become orderly and orderly. The Yang meridian, divine sun, divine moon, and various great Tao nomological laws in the heaven and earth Tao palace operated more rationally and faster under the constraints of this mysterious power of order. At the same time, it drove all of Su Fong's power, increasing the speed at which he absorbed the power of order by more than 10-fold. Su Fong had a strong feeling that this power of heavenly Tao order was exactly what his inner world lacked. If his inner world had this power, it would undergo an earth-shattering change. This change was brought about by the 8th transformation of the 9 Yang 9 transformations. In other words, the successful birth of the 72nd Yang meridian did not lack the accumulation of Yang energy, but an opportunity. This opportunity was the power of heavenly Tao order. The chains formed from the power of heavenly Tao order collapsed layer by layer. The surging power in the surroundings collapsed layer by layer, and surged into Su Fang's body like an army of thousands of horses. At this moment, it was no longer the power of heavenly Tao order that wanted to shackle Su Fang, but Su Fang was actively absorbing this power. Boom! Boom! As the layers collapsed, the empty space around Su Fang grew larger and larger, from 100 feet to 100 feet to 10 miles, and still continuing to extend. Under such astonishing devouring power, Su Fang's strength rapidly recovered. Even the cracks in the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace were unknowingly mended. A little more intense. Only then can the 72nd Yang Meridian be born as soon as possible. Su Fang's eyes flashed with excitement. He wished that the power of heavenly Tao order would be 10 times, 100 times more intense. Who knew? Things did not go as he wished. The power of heavenly Tao order was like a river that had its source cut off. It gradually weakened and finally disappeared. What's going on? Su Fang was shocked and stunned. He looked over. The rainbow stone lotus was once again revealed because the surrounding power of heavenly Tao order had been completely devoured. Su Fang used his great perfection ability to carefully examine the rainbow stone lotus. He sensed that this stone lotus was like the embodiment of heavenly Tao order. It was a kind of shackle, restriction, and, at the same time, a guarantee that heavenly Tao could operate and evolve. Su Fang also sensed that this rainbow stone lotus had fused with the internal space of the entire Sin Garden. It was subtly restricting and at the same time absorbing the essence of those spiritual objects. The divine prison of heaven's law comes from the celestial worthy mountain. I'm afraid that even those venerable sovereigns can't unravel the origin of this rainbow stone lotus. Only the supreme existence of the imperial people can truly know its origin. Su Fang thought for a while and suddenly slapped his forehead. I actually forgot about senior sister. As his strength increased, Su Fang asked Shu Wanjin for help less and less. He often relied on his own ability to resolve various crises. Su Fang now understood that Shu Wanjin was not yet an overgod expert and was not far away from him. However, she had found many books, jade slips, and notes outside the Advent Divine Palace. Her understanding of the celestial worthy mountain even exceeded some ordinary venerable sovereigns. She should know the origin of this rainbow stone lotus. Su Fang immediately activated the Origin Divine Mirror and peeled off a strand of Yang spirit. He quickly entered the crimson magic treasure space from the mirror and began to release Yang Qi and some 9 Yin Qi. Only a moment later, the familiar cold air came faintly. Shu Wanjin's voice sounded faintly with the cold air. Did you encounter any danger in the divine prison of heaven's law? I can't stay here all the time. If you encounter any danger that you can't resolve, you must contact me immediately. Thank you for your concern, senior sister. Su Fang did not waste any more time and allowed Shu Wanjin to see the rainbow stone lotus with his divine power. After pondering for a long time, Shu Wanjin slowly said, "Everything that is related to the exalted celestial mountain is incomparably mysterious. Even I cannot determine what this rainbow stone lotus is. I can only speculate based on what I know. This rainbow stone lotus should be similar to an origin source gem. However, it doesn't contain the power of a world, but a kind of origin source gem of the universe. According to my speculations, it should be a supreme existence of the universe that created the divine prison of heaven's law with the order of the heavenly way to maintain the operation of the heavenly way. This supreme power absorbed the matter and power of Sin Garden, and after countless years of precipitation, it condensed into this rainbow stone lotus. Therefore, this rainbow stone lotus contains the origin source gem of the universe, so you can use it to cultivate the supreme heavenly way. Moreover, this rainbow stone lotus is not an ordinary origin source gem. It contains the illusory and profound order of the heavenly way. It will be of great benefit to the cultivation of your inner world." Su Fang nodded and said, "I also have this feeling. As long as I fuse with this rainbow stone lotus, my 9 Yang 9 transformations will definitely step into the 8th transformation. The world and my body will also undergo a tremendous change because of this. It's just that I don't understand why. It's actually very simple. Think about it. What is order? Order is the foundation that maintains the heavenly way. When your inner world has order, it means that it is no longer in a chaotic and disorderly state. The transformation will naturally be extremely shocking. Understand. However, this 7-colored stone lotus has merged with your sin garden. I'm afraid it won't be that easy to obtain it. Let me take a look first. If it really doesn't work, I can only ask for Senior Sister's help to activate the Origin Sacred Mirror and use the Yin-Yang transformation to keep the Rainbow Stone Lotus. I will go first. I hope you can successfully obtain this Rainbow Stone Lotus and reach the 8th transformation as soon as possible. After Shu Wanjin finished speaking, she turned into nothingness with the cold air and disappeared without a trace within the Origin's Sacred Mirror. Chapter 2286. Outside the chaotic region where the Rainbow Stone Lotus was located, the demon race expert Yuan Fu had already reverted from a sinister and evil demon god to an extremely handsome and bewitching man. I didn't expect that I would lose a physical body just to kill a mere Dao integration stage cultivator. It wasn't easy for me to obtain a perfect human body in the divine prison of Heaven's Law. Now, it won't be easy for me to enter the main hall to obtain the prison-suppressing codex and rescue my true body. Looking at the chaotic region ahead, Yuan Fu revealed an expression of resentment. The human cultivator's physical body was a prison guardian of the divine prison of Heaven's Law. Using this person's aura, it was relatively easy to enter the Sin Garden and the main palace. In order to hunt down Su Fong, he destroyed this physical body. This made Yuan Fu's heart ache. Ji Shixing, who had already caught up, chuckled. Lord Yuan Fu, the reward you receive from the higher-ups of the demon race for killing Su Fong this time is enough to make up for your loss. What's there to feel sad about? You're right. Yuan Fu snorted. However, I finally entered the divine prison of Heaven's Law this time. No matter what, I have to obtain the prison-suppressing codex. Ji Shixing said, the Luo clan has already made sufficient preparations for the Yuan Tiangong geniuses to enter the divine prison of Heaven's Law this time. That Di Yuan might also have some tricks up his sleeve. If Lord Yuan Fu wants to obtain the prison-suppressing codex, you don't have to enter the main palace. When the time comes, you can just snatch the prison-suppressing codex from whoever obtains it. Yuan Fu nodded. That's right. I don't have to go to the main palace. However, I have to obtain the plant spirit treasures in the Sin Garden. It turned out that in the Sin Garden, the experts of the divine prison of Heaven's Law used a supreme forbidden spell to transform those death row prisoners into plant spirit treasures. Yuan Fu suddenly looked at the people around him. I'm going to obtain the plant spirit treasures that are extremely important to me. One of you stay behind. The rest of you follow me to obtain the treasures. Each of you can obtain a plant spirit treasure. Yes, let's go. Yuan Fu turned and flew away. The other demon Dao experts followed closely behind him and finally disappeared into the depths of the Sin Garden. Su Fong, how arrogant were you when you defeated the Ji people back then? You didn't expect that you would also become the person you are today. Ji Shixing looked at the primal chaos region and revealed an incomparably delighted smile. You stay here. Ji Shixing pointed at a Ji people's expert. Although they were certain that Su Fong was dead, they hadn't witnessed Su Fong's death with their own eyes. Whether it was Ji Shixing or the devil race's Yuan Fu, they were a bit worried. However, they didn't dare enter the primal chaos region, so they left behind experts to guard outside. The rest of you, follow me to find a plant spirit treasure that can help our clan's first ancestor become a peerless sovereign. Let's go. Ji Shixing brought the remaining 3G people's experts and flew in the opposite direction of Yuan Fu. In the depths of the primal chaos region, Su Fong activated the power of the world of Yin and Yang to envelop the Rainbow Stone Lotus. Then, he continued to penetrate it, intending to collect it. Who knew? From inside of the Rainbow Stone Lotus, there was an astonishing power of heavenly Tao order. After a few vibrations, it shattered Su Fong's power and even intertwined to form layers of powerful defensive barriers around it, merging with the inner world of Sin Plant Garden. Moreover, there was a vast and chilling power of order that constantly surged out, shrouding Su Fong and the entire primal chaos region like a huge heaven and earth cage. The power of order condensed into huge chains of order and waved crazily around the rainbow stone lotus. The seemingly calm rainbow stone lotus had turned into a ferocious and terrifying octopus monster at this moment. It was obvious that the rainbow stone lotus had its own consciousness. Although it didn't have the intelligence of a human, it wasn't easy to collect it. Su Fong released the power of the world of yin and yang. The shackles around him were instantly weakened by half. Although they were still shackled, they couldn't seal him. This was because Su Fong had devoured a large amount of heavenly Tao order, causing the world in his body and the power of the world of yin and yang to contain the same power. Naturally, the shackles on him were weakened by a lot. Rainbow Stone Lotus, Rainbow Stone Lotus. You will definitely be the nourishment for Su Fong to become an unparalleled expert. Any resistance is futile. Su Fong smiled domineeringly. With a flip of his right hand, the Origin's sacred mirror appeared in his palm. The moment the Origin's sacred mirror appeared, before Su Fong could activate it, the Rainbow Stone Lotus sensed the aura emitted by the mirror. Immediately, it trembled violently and revealed a terrified expression. The chains of order that were waving at Su Fong shrank back. The Origin's sacred mirror must be a supreme artifact of the celestial worthy mountain. It surpasses any power of heavenly Tao and naturally surpasses the power of heavenly Tao order. It makes the Rainbow Stone Lotus feel instinctive fear. With such a supreme artifact, how can I not reach the pinnacle? Su Fong activated the power of 9 suns and poured it into the mysterious space from the scarlet mirror. The Origin's sacred mirror was activated and a red light shot out from the mirror. The Rainbow Stone Lotus was not a magic treasure or a spiritual object. Therefore, it did not take the initiative to escape. It only released an astonishing power of heavenly Tao order to protect itself. Whoosh! The red light enveloped the Rainbow Stone Lotus in a large area and immediately shattered the chains of order it released. Then, it covered its defenses and ignited the 9 suns' true fire. The Rainbow Stone Lotus was unable to move at all. It could only instinctively struggle and tremble. I didn't expect a treasure formed by the heavenly Tao Origin to be so fragile under the power of the Origin sacred mirror. Now, I don't have to use the yin-yang transformation to activate the mirror to break it down. Joining forces with Shu Wanjin to activate the Origin's sacred mirror with the yin-yang transformation was truly domineering. It could return any matter or energy to its original state and turn it into Khanate Chaos Chi. Su Fong wanted to fuse with the power of order in the Rainbow Stone Lotus to attack the 72nd Yang Meridian. Naturally, he hoped to absorb it completely into the mirror space. He did not want the Rainbow Stone Lotus to break down and turn into Chaos Chi. As long as he continued to activate the Origin's sacred mirror, it would not be long before he could subdue it. Under the divine power of the 9 suns' true fire, the Rainbow Stone Lotus's defenses began to shatter, just when Su Fong thought he could immediately absorb it into the mirror space. The Rainbow Stone Lotus suddenly shot out rays of rainbow light and forcibly blasted away the 9 suns' true fire released by the Origin's sacred mirror. The rainbow light faded into the void and quickly turned corporeal. Like the roots of a tree, it took root in the Sin Garden world. Sizzle! An incomparably pure aura poured into the 7-colored stone lotus from the roots. The Rainbow Stone Lotus turned into a lifelike Rainbow Stone Lotus. It bloomed with resplendent light and released an astonishing aura. It was actually resisting the burning of the 9 suns' true fire. The Rainbow Stone Lotus, is actually absorbing the essence of the spiritual items in the Sin Garden to protect itself. Su Fong was extremely shocked. He did not expect the Rainbow Stone Lotus to be so powerful. However, after thinking for a while, Su Fong also understood. The rainbow stone lotus was actually equivalent to the Sin Garden's world fragment. Moreover, it had its own consciousness. It could mobilize the essence of the spiritual items in the Sin Garden to protect itself. It was a very normal thing. The number of plant spirit treasures in the Sin Garden was innumerable. They contained an incomparably majestic essence, aura. How shocking would it be when they gathered together? No matter how powerful the Origin Sacred Mirror was, it was impossible for it to devour all the plant spirit treasures in the Sin Garden in a short time. Anyway, I have plenty of time. Let's see who can last until the end. A ruthless force surged in Su Fang's heart. He peeled off a sun spirit and controlled the Origin's sacred mirror to constantly release red light to wear down the rainbow stone lotus's power. Su Fang's original body sat down cross-legged not far away. The divine dragon that was absorbed by the Origin sacred mirror was only half absorbed by Su Fang. It was just the right time to cultivate and break through to the peak of the fifth heaven of the ultimate God realm. After forming the seal, Su Fang's body collapsed and turned into the blue sky underworld state. A body condensed from blood. Then Su Fang grabbed the sealed divine dragon shadow. In the blue sky underworld's reincarnation divine power, the divine dragon's shadow was constantly devoured. The pure and majestic dragon chi with elemental essence and life chi in it were quickly drained and absorbed by Su Fang. At this moment, as the rainbow stone lotus was crazily absorbing the essence of the plant spirit treasures in the Sin Garden to fight against the Origin sacred mirror, it caused the plant spirit treasures in the Sin Garden to undergo drastic changes. Some people were also unlucky. After Luo Xingtian recovered a little, he continued to use his blood to fuse with the Tree of Stars. The star fruits on the tree became extremely real. One could even see the outline of the mountains and oceans on the stars. The entire Tree of Stars was filled with Luo Xingtian's aura. Luo Xingtian almost collapsed, but his eyes under his eyebrows were shining with vigor. I'll be able to completely fuse with the Tree of Stars in 10 days at most. Then I'll have unlimited possibilities to reach the peak and even surpass it. Su Fang, I'll let you know what a real, peerless genius is. Luo Xingtian revealed a domineering smile. Although he was dispirited, he was in high spirits. Suddenly, the Tree of Stars suddenly trembled violently. Luo Xingtian could feel the essence of the Tree of Stars, including the blood chi that he had fused with the Tree of Stars, crazily flowing into the void. Damn it! What's going on? Why is this happening? Luo Xingtian could not control the flow of his aura and was instantly shocked. However, all his efforts were in vain. Luo Xingtian tried everything he could, but not only was he unable to stop the situation from developing, it was getting worse. Even the blood chi, divine spirit, and dermic powers in his body were flowing into the Tree of Stars and into the void. Why is this happening? Luo Xingtian was extremely unwilling, but what could he do? In the end, he had to clench his teeth and cut off the connection with the Tree of Stars. He could only watch as the cooked duck flew away. The Tree of Stars was prepared by my ancestors for Luo Xingtian. Who is robbing me of my fortune? Who? Chapter 2287. Of course, Luo Xingtian was not the only unlucky one. The demon tribe powerhouse, Yuan Fu, used the memories of the powerhouse from the divine prison of law that he had possessed. He quickly found his target in the depths of Sin Garden. It was a bloody cloud that spanned hundreds of miles. It exuded a shocking and evil demonic chi. This is a plant spirit treasure formed by a demon god that's equivalent to a human venerable emperor powerhouse. It was suppressed by the divine prison of law and formed by a restrictive spell. Although I won't reach the level of a venerable emperor after devouring this treasure, I'll at least be able to elevate to the peak of a lord in a short period of time. That way, it'll be easy to seize the prison-suppressing codex and rescue me. Diyuan, Su Fang, Long. These human geniuses who entered the divine prison of law, including the powerhouses outside, will all be devoured by me. By then, I'll even be able to devour me. I'll be in charge of everything. Yuan Fu's devilishly handsome face was filled with glee. As his menacing laughter echoed in Sin Garden, he unleashed an evil blood chi and opened his arms. The floating bloody cloud was like a ferocious beast that had smelled blood. It swept over in a frenzy with a whoosh, enveloping Yuan Fu and entering his body in a frenzy, devouring his demonic chi and blood chi. Yuan Fu's face was contorted, becoming ferocious and terrifying. His face was filled with pain, but his eyes flickered with morbid and insane excitement. He allowed the bloody cloud to devour him. Who knew? The bloody cloud suddenly stopped surging. It then flowed into the void in a frenzy, as if there was a bloody mouth in the void that was devouring the bloody cloud wantonly. Who's stealing my plant spirit treasure? You must have a death wish. Yuan Fu bellowed domineeringly. He unleashed his demonic chi, which instantly enveloped the space within 10,000 miles. It transformed into an evil demonic realm that he dominated. However, the result was surprising and shocking. Since he had lost the body he had possessed, his abilities were suppressed. However, he still possessed abilities close to middle-rank lords. QL 11, even with his current abilities, he could not control the flow of the bloody cloud. He could not even sense the source of the devouring bloody cloud. Apart from the shock, an inexplicable fear surged in his heart. At the highest point of the inner world of Sin Garden, the closer one was to Sin Garden's barrier, the more shocking the shackles. It was difficult for ordinary gods to come into contact with the barrier. At that moment, Di Yuan was walking up in the air. His snow-white robe was in tatters. There were no more than 10 cracks that seeped out blood, and he no longer had his usual imposing figure. His face was filled with exhaustion, and his aura was dispirited. However, his eyes flickered with a hale and hearty light, and his entire body emitted an aura of indomitable determination. A golden heart was embedded in the barrier at a height of 1,000 feet above the barrier. His heart was beating rapidly, emitting a wonderful sound of the heavenly way. Moreover, it was emitting an astonishing aura that only an Emperor Realm Master could possess. Luo Xingtian. You think that only the Luo clan knows the true origin of the Heaven Ruin Temple, but you have forgotten that I am from the Supreme God clan. Everyone thought that this young master had entered the divine prison of law to compete with Su Fong, but who would have thought that this young master was actually here for the heart of a supreme venerable master? How could a mere Su Fong be worthy of this young master's attention? As long as I get this heart, even if I can't fuse with it now, just by listening to the heavenly God Emperor's demonic chi and absorbing the life essence in the heart, this young master's cultivation and primordial spirit will improve by leaps and bounds. Di Yuan's eyes flashed with decisiveness and ruthlessness. He unleashed all his cultivation and took a big step forward. He rose more than 70 feet. He was only 20 feet away from the heart. He only needed to recover some of his strength, and he could get in one go. Di Yuan released a golden mirror. The Xian Guang it released blocked the shackles outside. He then sat down cross-legged to recover. Sizzle. Golden chi suddenly emerged from the heart. It poured into the barrier and disappeared into nothingness. Di Yuan's pupils abruptly constricted and shot out a shocking light. His face was filled with disbelief. Days passed, and the heart was also passing away. Di Yuan's heart was bleeding. His mind was in a mess. He couldn't calm down to recover. Ji Shisheng led the 3G people's experts and found the treasure they were looking for. It was a 10-foot-tall rock. It stood at the peak of a mountain. The shape of the rock was like a large bell. It exuded an ancient and boundless chi. It was as if the sound of this stone bell could shake the world and change the vicissitudes of the sun and moon. This rock was a sealed emperor-level expert. It was a gem formed by the divine prison of law's experts. It was very similar to the heavenly god avatar. The reason why the Ji people risked being exterminated by the Yuan Tiangong and joined forces with the demon race experts to enter the divine prison of law was because Yuan Fu had provided the Ji people with information about this stone bell. The 3G people's experts surrounded the stone bell. They constantly released life blood chi and seeped into the stone bell. The stone bell absorbed the life blood chi like a sponge. it gradually gained spirituality. On the other hand, the 3G people's experts' chi gradually weakened. The G people's method of collecting the stone bell was very simple. They didn't hesitate to consume the lives of the G people's experts so that the stone bell would contain the life blood chi of the G people. Then Ji Shisheng would take it away and bring it back to the G people. He would let the G people's first ancestor cultivate it. Once the first ancestor fuses with this stone bell, he will be able to reach the peak of King God and become a peerless emperor. Our clan was bullied by Emperor Sangxiao. Ji Wuji was killed by the Yuan Tiangong experts. Isn't it because our clan doesn't have an emperor-level expert? Once our first ancestor becomes an emperor-level expert, who will dare to bully our clan? The continuous humiliation of the Ji people made Ji Shisheng's heart burn with hatred. Flames of hatred burned in his eyes. Buzz, 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 the stone bell suddenly trembled. Its chi quickly seeped into the ground and disappeared without a trace. What's going on? The sudden change caused Ji Shisheng's divine aura to change instantly. The 3G people's experts used all their strength, but they couldn't stop the stone bell's chi from flowing away. Ji Shisheng displayed his extremely cold and ruthless side. He unleashed his divine might and attacked the 3G people's experts. Puff, puff, puff. The 3G people's experts turned into blood at the same time. They surged toward the stone bell and quickly seeped into it. However, the result made Ji Shisheng reveal a look of despair. The lies of the 3G people's experts couldn't stop the stone bell's chi from flowing away. Could it be that the heavens want our G people to die? Ji Shisheng, an intermediate chief god, also fell into despair. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Suddenly, Ji Shisheng grabbed a rune talisman with his right hand. The voice of the G people's expert outside the primal chaos region sounded from the rune talisman. Great Elder, come quickly. There's movement in the primal chaos region. Ji Shisheng trembled. What movement? I can faintly sense the aura of tribulation. It seems like someone is advancing. Advancing? Could it be Su Fong? Su Fong didn't die. He even advanced in that place of certain death. Ji Shisheng revealed a look of disbelief. Then, he roared angrily. If I can't obtain the supreme treasure, I will be severely punished when I return to the clan. If Su Fong is allowed to live, even I won't be able to escape death. Su Fong, you must die. I want to see you if you're alive. If you're dead, I want to see your corpse. His voice was still echoing when Ji Shisheng's figure disappeared from the mountain peak. In the deepest part of the primal chaos region, Su Fong's yang spirit continued to control the origin sacred mirror. It released a red glow. The nine yang true fire enveloped the rainbow stone lotus and burned fiercely. As for Su Fong's true body, Pa, a wave of tribulation fire exploded from his body like a force. It quickly enveloped his entire body. Together with the illusory fire cloud and the nine yang divine fire, it burned wildly. It made whistling sounds. The burning was so terrifying. The moment the impurities surged out of the placenta, they turned into ashes. Every advancement was a huge metamorphosis. However, metamorphosis also meant great pain. However, Su Fong's eyes revealed a look of enjoyment. Only by enduring pain again and again could one welcome the joy of success. In a short period of time, he was able to have such shocking gains. It was mainly because of his adventures in the Sin Garden. He swallowed the power of the heavenly Tao order and the divine dragon plant spirit treasure. That was why he advanced so quickly. If he cultivated in seclusion step by step, it would be normal for him to cultivate for 1,000,000 years. Soon, the impact on his body ended. He welcomed the power of advancement, which swept through his physical body, divine apertures, and Tao Palace. One of the 5 heavenly marks split into 6. Moreover, the aura of the world in his body became much more vast. This meant that Su Fong had entered the 6th heaven of the Tao integration stage. I advanced another level so quickly. Although the trip to the divine prison of heaven's law was extremely dangerous, and I was almost killed by the experts of the devil race and the G people, I also gain a lot. Su Fang's face was pale. He was weak after his advancement. However, his heart was brimming with joy. There is still a lot of energy in the divine dragon's spiritual object. It is just enough to fill up the emptiness of my physical body after my advancement. With all kinds of elixirs, I will try to stabilize my sixth heaven realm quickly. Su Fang calmed down and swallowed the elixirs. He fused with the few remaining divine dragon spiritual objects to stabilize his newly advanced realm and restore the emptiness in his body. About 3 days later, looking at the rainbow stone lotus that was constantly resisting the Origin's sacred mirror, Su Fang shook his head and smiled bitterly. I didn't expect that it would be so troublesome to collect the rainbow stone lotus. I don't know how long it will take. It is a pity that there are so many spiritual objects. After I collect the rainbow stone lotus, all the spiritual objects will be greatly damaged. Moreover, they will be incinerated by the 9-yang true fire. What a pity. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows. A sharp and cold light shot out from his eyes. The master god of the G people actually entered the primal chaos region personally. My advancement must have alarmed him. Since you are here, don't leave. Su Fang stretched out his hand and waved. The Origin, sacred mirror, and the sun god were all taken back into his body. The rainbow stone lotus thought that it had escaped a calamity. It immediately cheered and trembled. It seemed to be very excited. At the same time, it stopped devouring the spiritual objects in the Sin Garden. The heavenly Tao order was released again, filling the primal chaos region. However, to Su Fang, the heavenly Tao order was no longer able to completely shackle him. It was just suppressing him. Su Fang continued to sit cross-legged on the ground. His physical body was collapsing. His aura had also become weak. He looked like he had not recovered from his serious injuries. It turned out that, Chapter 2288, whoosh, Ji Shixing's figure flashed and entered the chaos region. Su Fang, it's really you. You're actually still alive. As the power of the heavenly Tao order released by the rainbow stone lotus was not as shocking as before, Ji Shixing saw Su Fang as soon as he entered the chaos region. His eyes were filled with surprise and shock when he saw Su Fang. Then he saw the rainbow stone lotus not far from Su Fang. Ji Shixing sensed that this item was extraordinary, and his eyes became incomparably hardy. No wonder there are such shocking shackles here. It's because of this treasure. However, Ji Shixing did not dare to be careless. He activated his defenses and broke free from the shackles of the heavenly Tao order as he slowly advanced. When he was only 1,000 feet away from Su Fang was still sitting there without moving. It was obvious that he was severely injured. You've actually advanced to the 6th firmament of the Tao integration stage. Su Fang, you're truly a heaven-defying, peerless genius. When Ji Shixing saw Su Fang's cultivation level, he was instantly shocked again. However, when he saw Su Fang's severely injured appearance, he concluded that Su Fang had not recovered from his injuries and had forcefully advanced with the help of pills and spiritual items, causing his injuries to worsen. He could not help but be overjoyed. Su Fang, I'll refine your body into a puppet and burn your essence spirit with demonic flames, torturing you for eternity, Su Fang said indifferently. I'm the saint of the Yuan Tiangong. If you kill me, aren't you afraid that the Ji people will be annihilated? Ji Shixing gritted his teeth. As long as I can kill you. So what if my people are annihilated? Su Fang revealed a mocking expression. Let me tell you something. The Ji people will be annihilated. However, they will not be annihilated by the Yuan Tiangong. They will be annihilated by my own hands. With just you? Even if you're in your peak condition, you can only be suppressed by me. You're still injured, and you still dare to be so arrogant in front of me? I know that you are someone who can surpass your level. However, the difference between mythic level and overgods is like the difference between heaven and earth. You are indeed extraordinary, and perhaps you can defeat ordinary overgods. However, I am definitely not an ordinary overgod. Su Fang, you've killed so many experts in my clan. Now that you've died in my hands, your death is not worth regretting. Hand over your life. Ji Shixing laughed savagely. A wave of divine, might accompanied by the rumbling of war drums, shattered the surrounding shackles and swept toward Su Fong. You'll be the first middle-rank lord that Su Fong has suppressed. You should feel extremely honored. Su Fong let out a domineering roar as the power of the Yin-Yang world shot out. Then, he unleashed the ethereal enlightenment divine ability, and the illusory power quickly transformed into a real universe. Ji Shixing was enveloped by Su Fong's world. To his shock, he discovered that not only was Su Fong not in a severely injured state as he had thought, but his current strength was also several times more powerful than when they had fought previously. What was even more shocking was that Su Fong's world had an additional power that was exactly the same as the power of the divine prison of heaven's law, the power of the heavenly Tao order. It was also because of the additional power of the heavenly Tao order that Su Fong's world had clearly become stronger, more compact, and more solid. It was difficult to shake it. Su Fong has lured me here to kill me. Ji Shixing was shocked and aghast. A great sense of danger surged into his heart. This kind of feeling was like a pig or sheep waiting to be slaughtered suddenly turned into a terrifying tiger with a shake of its body. I'm a mighty overgod. Why would I be afraid of a mere mythic-level cultivator like you? Ji Shixing unleashed his powerful cultivation base as an overgod. The rumbling sound of the drum shook Su Fong's world, causing it to tremble and shake. A overgod who is at the same level as Senior Shingwuji is indeed extremely powerful. However, in this divine prison of heaven's law, only death awaits you. Su Fong was determined to kill this Ji people's powerhouse. He unleashed his heavenly Tao Dharma power. A Dharma tree that was more than 100 feet tall appeared in the world. Although it was only 100 feet tall, it emanated an aura that seemed to support the universe. The fruits hanging from the branches contained a terrifying aura of the Great Path. What kind of strange heavenly Tao Dharma power is this? There's no need to merge with the heavenly Tao. No, he's merging with his own heavenly Tao to unleash the heavenly Tao Dharma power. Ji Shixing's divine light changed instantly. A fatal sense of danger made him want to shatter Su Fong's world and escape without hesitation. Even though Ji Shixing possessed the powerful strength of a middle-rank overgod, he still needed some time to shatter Su Fong's world. A spark was enough to determine life and death. Swoosh! Swoosh! In an instant, the power of the universe poured onto Ji Shixing's body, triggering an earth-shattering explosion. Ji Shixing's defense shattered with a loud bang. Then it was his divine body. The lower half of his body below his abdomen was smashed into a pulp. His internal organs spilled out. Even an overgod powerhouse would find it difficult to endure such serious injuries. Sizzle. Blood chi surged around Ji Shixing's wounds, and they healed at an astonishing speed. Swoosh. Although Su Fong unleashed his heavenly Tao Dharma power without holding back, it did not consume much of his Yin-Yang world's power. He unleashed swoosh. Swoosh. Coupled with the world's divine might, a world formed by blood water and a blood dome rapidly formed. Amidst the reincarnation divine might, Ji Shixing's blood chi and cultivation base were wildly devoured. Then, after another round of reincarnation, they became a part of Su Fong. Su Fong, I'll pay you back tenfold for what you did to me today. Ji Shixing roared furiously. He immediately abandoned his physical body, and his yang spirit broke free. In a flash, he was about to leap out of Su Fong's world's shackles and escape into nothingness. There's no future. Su Fong's voice, which was filled with murderous intent, reverberated in the world. A soundless thunder that could obliterate fate rang out in the unseen world, enveloping Ji Shixing's yang spirit. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ji Shixing's yang spirit immediately collapsed. His primordial spirit and consciousness were completely obliterated, leaving no trace behind. Destiny's thunder. It had been a long time since he had unleashed Destiny's thunder, but that did not mean that its power was inferior to other divine abilities. Restraining fate and obliterating everything related to fate and karma was the overbearing aspect of Destiny's thunder. In order to obliterate Ji Shixing's yang spirit, Su Fong did not need to activate the full power of Destiny's Thunder at all. The blood water swirled and swept half of Ji Shixing's corpse into it. A middle-rank Lord-level powerhouse's physical body was incomparably powerful. The blood water could not devour it in a short period of time. Su Fong sealed half of the corpse. He would deal with it slowly when he had the time. He had just advanced, so he could use this half of Ji Shixing's corpse to cultivate and reach the normal state of level 6 Dao integration as soon as possible. Although there's only half of Ji Shixing's corpse, the life essence it contains is more than 10 times more abundant than the frost plant. If I devour it completely, I'll definitely reach peak level 6 Dao integration. However, before that, I'll have to get rid of the 2 ants outside. Su Fong consolidated his physical body again, put away his world, and headed straight out of the Chaos Zone. Outside the Chaos Zone, the Ji People's Powerhouse and the Demon Dao Powerhouse were guarding outside. Suddenly, they sensed that there was no movement inside. The Ji People's Powerhouse said smugly, "Our peerless powerhouse has personally taken action. How can Su Fong not surrender?" The Demon Dao Powerhouse sneered disdainfully. "Even Lord Yuan Fu can't do anything to Su Fong, let alone Ji Shixing." Perhaps, whoosh, QL11, Su Fong flew across the sky. The Ji People's Powerhouse and the Demon Dao Powerhouse instantly turned into 2 pieces of wood. They had never expected that Su Fong would be the one to walk out of the Chaos Zone in the end. Moreover, it had happened in such a short time. Su Fong must be planning to escape. Stop him. We only need to stop him for a moment. Lord Ji Shixing can catch up and suppress him. The Ji People's Powerhouse thought that Su Fong was being chased by Ji Shixing. He immediately charged toward Su Fong and activated his divine weapon in an attempt to stop Su Fong. However, the Demon Dao Powerhouse realized that the situation was not good. He turned around and fled. Su Fong reached out and grabbed the air. He erupted with the supreme power of the purple Qi Dharma spirit, controlling the magic weapon. He directly grabbed the Ji People's divine weapon in his hand. Using the purple Qi Dharma spirit and the power of the yin-yang world, he directly crushed the light of the magic weapon and sealed it. Then he stored it into the purple Qi space in his body and handed it over to the purple Qi Dharma spirit to deal with. The Ji People's Powerhouse was shocked and stunned. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Su Fong used the Burning Heaven Eye. 2 streams of fire shot out from his eyes, condensing into a line of fire that landed on the Ji clan expert's body. With a boom, the expert was set ablaze. Amidst the shrill screams, the Ji People's Powerhouse turned into a pile of ashes under the domineering power of the 9 Yang divine flame. This Ji People's Powerhouse's cultivation base had reached the 5th heaven of the Dao integration stage. He would be a peerless powerhouse no matter where he was in the universe. He was also considered one of the few powerhouses among the Ji people. However, with Su Fong's current strength, dealing with a mid-stage Dao integration powerhouse was a piece of cake. It was as easy as a lord killing a Dao integration cultivator. Su Fong was about to charge toward the Demon Dao Powerhouse when a sinister aura suddenly descended. Then, a figure rapidly condensed in front of him and turned into a handsome and sinister cultivator. Su Fong looked panicked. He turned around and retreated into the Chaos Zone. He looked like he was running away. Yuan Fu's eyes were filled with shock. He asked the Demon Dao Powerhouse and then sensed him. He sensed that Ji Shixing's aura had completely disappeared from the Sin Garden space. It was obvious that he had died. Yuan Fu could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Su Fong already has the ability to kill a middle-rank lord. Although he might not be a match for me, he has enough ability to protect himself. Moreover, he was able to survive in the Chaos Zone. Clearly, he has extraordinary divine abilities or Dharma treasures. However, he pretended to be terrified. He clearly wants to lure me into the Chaos Zone and then kill me. Yuan Fu speculated. Then he looked smug. I'm not a fool. Why would I fall for it so easily? The Demon Dao Powerhouse flew over. My lord, what do we do next? Let's go. We're leaving the Sin Garden. Then Su Fong. don't we want the prison suppression codex? Su Fong's strength has far exceeded our initial estimation. It's almost impossible to kill him. As for the prison suppression codex, I'm determined to get it. I'll wait for the humans to fight to the death. Then, I'll reap the benefits. Chapter 2289. Seeing that Yuan Fu was not chasing after him, Su Fong carefully sensed and confirmed that Yuan Fu had left. He immediately heaved a sigh of relief. It turned out that he had purposely pretended to be terrified in order to mislead Yuan Fu into thinking that Su Fong was going to lure him into the chaotic region and kill him in the same way as Ji Shixing. In fact, Su Fong had just broken through and had not reached the normal height of the sixth heaven of the Tao integration realm. Killing Ji Shixing and another Ji people expert had already consumed a lot of his energy. If Yuan Fu chased after him, then with Su Fong's current state, it was practically impossible for him to kill Yuan Fu. It was even to the extent that he might exhaust himself too much, causing his newly advanced cultivation to become unstable and even fall to the fifth heavenly layer. Therefore, Su Fong also took a big risk. As he expected, although the demon race was vicious and evil, they were also paranoid because they lived in the world of darkness. Yuan Fu was so scared that he did not dare to enter the chaotic region. I can finally focus on collecting the rainbow stone lotus. Su Fong looked at the rainbow stone lotus again, and his eyes became hale and hearty again. The rainbow stone lotus seemed to have predicted the arrival of doomsday and could not help but tremble. Next, Su Fong continued to take out the origin sacred mirror. After activating it, he let Yang's spirit control the ancient mirror to continuously shoot out red light, which turned into 9 Yang true fire to burn. The rainbow stone lotus had fused with Sin Garden. Even if a venerable emperor expert came, it would be difficult to collect it easily. A Lord God expert would not be able to do anything to it. Unfortunately, it could not move and could only resist passively. It absorbed the aura of the plant spirit treasures in Sin Garden to resist the power of the origin sacred mirror. Su Fong sat down cross-legged not far away and continued to devour the remaining spiritual beings formed by the divine dragon. He wanted to reach the sixth heaven of the Tao integration realm as soon as possible. During the time when Su Fong killed Ji Shixing, the rainbow stone lotus also stopped absorbing the plant spirit treasures. Luo Xingtian, who had been unwilling to give up, was surprised and delighted when he woke up and found that the aura of the Tree of Stars was no longer flowing away. The heavens did not destroy my Luo Xingtian. The supreme spiritual being that my ancestors had painstakingly cultivated belongs to my Luo Xingtian, after all. What happened earlier was definitely the ancestors' way of testing me. How could such a supreme treasure be easily obtained? Naturally, one would have to go through a lot of trouble. I was a little too impatient. Luo Xingtian felt that he had figured it out and was overjoyed. He immediately took out his storage ring and took out a ball of xianguang. Sealed within the xianguang was a drop of fresh blood. It was like a living creature that was constantly surging. Inside the blood, there was a faint starlight, and a figure could be vaguely seen sitting cross-legged in the starlight. Even though the ethereal silhouette was sealed and not a single trace of its aura leaked out, it still gave off a feeling of boundless vastness. This drop of blood is the blood essence of my clan's Emperor Realm Master. Normally, I would never use it unless it was a critical moment. At this moment, I can't care about anything else. For the sake of my future achievements, consuming this drop of blood essence is worth it. Luo Xingtian showed a painful expression. Finally, he gritted his teeth and opened his mouth to suck the Xian Guang into his stomach along with the blood. In just 5 short breaths, Luo Xingtian's dispirited aura rapidly rose, and his skin quickly became as white and tender as a baby. Finally, Luo Xingtian's aura surpassed the ultimate god realm and rose steadily until it reached the height of the sixth heaven of the Tao fusing realm before stopping. With the help of a drop of the Luo clan's Emperor Realm Master's blood, Luo Xingtian's aura skyrocketed. Although he could not control the powerful force contained in the blood, he could use it to merge with the Tree of Stars. Then, Luo Xingtian frantically released his blood qi to merge with the Tree of Stars. Unexpectedly, after just over 2 hours, the aura of the Tree of Stars was rapidly drained again. Even Luo Xingtian's blood qi was also drained. Even if he had the cultivation of the sixth heaven of the Tao fusing realm, he could not stop it. Ancestor, how can you treat my Luo Xingtian like this? Luo Xingtian screamed in despair and spat out a mouthful of blood. Even his eyes, ears, and nose were bleeding. He fell to the ground and fainted again. In the depths of Sin Plant Garden, Di Yuan sensed that the aura of the Golden Heart had stopped draining. However, Di Yuan was still able to keep his composure and wait patiently. Something strange happened again. Di Yuan showed a decisive expression. It seems that I am not fated with this treasure. I cannot force it. Then, Di Yuan left without looking back and went straight to the outside of Sin Plant Garden. Years passed. Around 300 years, the various essences of the countless plant spirit treasures in Sin Plant Garden were gradually drained and finally disappeared from Sin Plant Garden. The light released by the Rainbow Stone Lotus was also gradually dimming. It had no choice but to use its own energy to fight against the Origin Sacred Mirror. Not far away, blood clouds were surging in the blood sky. The blood sea below was roaring. In the blood sea that was tens of thousands of feet in size, there was an astonishing flame of life burning. QL11, Su Fong's physical body that was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the blood sea suddenly opened its eyes and revealed a joyful smile. In these 300 years, he had finally merged with all the spiritual beings transformed from the divine dragon. Together with half of Ji Shixing's corpse, not only had he recovered to his peak state, but his cultivation had also increased to the peak of the sixth heaven of the Tao fusing realm. Such an astonishing speed of improvement was, of course, due to the spiritual beings and the corpses of Ji people powerhouses. Logically speaking, a spiritual being that was comparable to a middle-rank lord and half of a middle-rank lord's corpse was like a boundless essence. It was enough to allow an ordinary Tao fusing true gods to improve by 2 or 3 small stages. However, Su Fong had only improved to the peak of the sixth heaven. The main reason was that Su Fong's heaven and earth Tao palace was simply too vast and astonishing. The difficulty of improving was 10 times that of an ordinary Tao fusing true gods. Of course, every time Su Fong improved by a small stage, his abilities would also increase by 10 times that of an ordinary true god. He stared at the Rainbow Stone Lotus. Su Fong revealed a smile. It's time to collect this peerless treasure. He reverted to his original form and recalled the Yang spirit. Then, he activated the Origin Sacred Mirror with all his might. The red light that shot out suddenly became several times more intense. The terrifying 9 Yang True fire completely engulfed the Rainbow Stone Lotus. TSK, 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 TSK. The rainbow light released by the Rainbow Stone Lotus shattered layer by layer. The 9 Yang True fire began to burn the Rainbow Stone Lotus's main body. Some of the impurities were immediately purified and turned into ashes under the burning of the 9 Yang True fire. Another 3 years passed in this state. Splat! The Rainbow Stone Lotus was burned into a lotus flower of nothingness. In the end, it was absorbed into the treasure mirror's internal space. I've finally obtained the Rainbow Stone Lotus. Su Fong was so excited that he could not close his mouth. He was so excited that he almost danced with joy. The Rainbow Stone Lotus contained the power of heavenly Tao order. It was a kind of heavenly Tao origin energy. What would it mean if he merged it? It would mean that Su Fong's internal world would possess the power of order. He would take another huge step forward in his cultivation of the supreme heavenly Tao. Moreover, Su Fong had a strong feeling that with the help of this Rainbow Stone Lotus, he would definitely be able to form the 72nd Yang Meridian in one go. As a result, he would be able to step into the 8th transformation of the 9 Yang Meridian. The opportunity to form the 72nd Yang Meridian has already been firmly grasped by me. However, The rainbow stone lotus still needs to be continuously fused with the ancient mirror to allow the rainbow stone lotus to possess the ancient mirror's aura. Only then will it be easier to fuse. Otherwise, even my heaven-earth Tao palace will find it difficult to accommodate the astonishing energy within the rainbow stone lotus. I'll leave the rainbow stone lotus in the origin sacred mirror first. It's time to go to the main hall of the Heaven's Law Divine Prison to obtain the Prison Suppression Codex and Heaven Supervisor Token. Su Fong took out a piece of human skin and activated the aura of the Fruit of Sin. The human skin quickly fused with him. In an instant, Su Fong transformed into a skinny, pale-faced youth. Even his aura rapidly changed. He cultivated the water Tao, and his cultivation level was only at the 4th firmament of the Tao integration realm. Then, he left the Chaos region and flew out of Sin Garden. Su Fong was surprised to discover that the spiritual beings he encountered in Sin Garden had all disappeared. Then, he was pleasantly surprised to discover that the shackles in Sin Garden had almost no effect on him. After pondering for a while, he understood the reason behind it. In the Chaos region, he had absorbed a large amount of heavenly Tao order power. His aura contained the power of order. Naturally, the Heaven's Law Divine Prison would not form any shackles on him. Having the heavenly Tao order power is another huge advantage I have in the Heaven's Law Divine Prison. I have more confidence in obtaining the Prison Suppression Codex and Heaven Supervisor Token. Su Fong took out the prison guard token that Luo Xingtian had given him before he entered Sin Garden. He smiled casually and kept the token in his body. He did not abandon it. Su Fong flew out of Sin Garden at a normal speed with his 4th firmament of the Tao Integration Realm cultivation level. It was already 5 years later. Along the way, he constantly sensed but did not discover any traces of Luo Xingtian, the G people, or the demon race experts. Unexpectedly, just as he flew out of Sin Garden, Luo Xingtian's thunderous voice sounded. "Who are you? How dare you enter Sin Garden to search for treasures?" It turned out that after Luo Xingtian woke up, he watched as the tree of stars disappeared before his eyes. He had no choice but to leave in despair. However, he was still unwilling to give up. He waited at the entrance of Sin Garden, hoping to find some clues. In the end, he bumped into Su Fong here. Su Fong replied domineeringly, "When did this garden become your home? You can go in to search for treasures. Why can't I?" Sensing Su Fong's aura, Luo Xingtian became fearful and snorted. "Report your name. One of my subordinates was killed. I suspect you are the culprit. I'm young Master Zhuolang from the Zhuolang Divine Realm. How dare you, a mere godly venerable ant, interrogate me?" Scram! Su Fong swung his sleeves, rolling out a vast divine power that shook Luo Xingtian to the side. Then, he slowly flew into the depths of the Heaven's Law Divine Prison. Luo Xingtian looked at Su Fong's back in confusion. At this moment, Di Yuan also followed him out of Sin Garden. Luo Xingtian asked tentatively, "Young Master Di Yuan, did you find anything in Sin Garden? However much you found, I also found the same amount." Humph! Di Yuan's aura was weak. He snorted coldly and went straight to the main palace of the Heaven's Law Divine Prison. "Young Master Di Yuan, I returned empty-handed in Sin Garden and wasted time. I'm sure young Master Di Yuan didn't find anything. Why don't you and I work together in the main palace of the Heaven Ruin Temple?" Chapter 2290. Su Fong thought that he would encounter a lot of trouble when he headed to the main hall. After all, this was the divine prison of law. The deeper he went, the more powerful the barriers and puppets would be. Who knew, along the way, he saw a mess. Large areas of buildings had collapsed, and all kinds of barriers and restrictions were broken. Broken puppets and the corpses of cultivators could be seen everywhere. Su Fong was shocked to find that among the broken puppets, there were not only godly venerable or Tao integration stage prison guards, but there were also bull-headed barbarians whose strength was comparable to overgods. There were also puppets that were even more powerful than bull-headed barbarians. There were also many cultivator corpses. Some of them were obviously not the first batch of experts who entered the divine prison of law. It was obvious that a large number of experts had entered the divine prison of law during the years in Sin Botany Garden. The divine light wrapped around a white-robed man among the corpses. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. It turned out that the cultivator who was killed by the puppet was one of his guards in the Saint Temple. Su Fong thought to himself, "It seems that the experts guarding outside the divine prison of law, including Tsang Yinhai and my guards, have all entered the divine prison of law." Buzz, a rune talisman in his body, stirred. As soon as he took it out, Tsang Yinhai's anxious voice sounded from the rune talisman. "Holy Son Su Fong, where are you?" Su Fong replied, "I'm fine. Why are you here?" "Holy Son, you're fine." Tsang Yinhai's surprised voice sounded again. "Holy Son, you don't know yet, right? The Heaven Ruined Temple is from the divine prison of law of the celestial worthy mountain. It has alarmed many experts and even attracted the attention of venerable sovereigns." "I know a little about the divine prison of law." Su Fong frowned. "Did any venerable sovereigns enter the divine prison of law?" "No, they didn't. In the divine prison of law, the strength of true gods is greatly suppressed. It's the same for venerable sovereigns. Besides, the divine prison of law has great implications. Venerable sovereigns don't dare to act rashly." "Who are the experts that entered the divine prison of law?" "Luo Yunshun from the Luo clan, the Grand Elder from the Punishment Palace, a peerless expert from the Yi clan, the second patriarch of the Ji people, and the peerless expert from the Pure Land in the far west of the Divine Realm, the Buddha of creation. Even the weakest among them is an upper-ranked chief god." "So many masters?" Su Fong snorted. "Then, won't this trial in the Heavenly Ruins Temple be in vain?" "That's not necessarily the case. Right now, those supreme experts are all blocked outside the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law. They're arguing with each other, and they're currently discussing how to enter the main hall. So that's how it is. I will be there soon. Be careful, Holy Son of Su Fong. Although the barriers, restrictions, and puppets to enter the main palace have been destroyed by peerless masters, before entering the main palace, you have to pass through a dangerous place called the Maze Square. You have to be especially careful. Previously, even the hunchbacked master from Sanskrit was seriously injured when he passed through there. I'll remember it." Su Fong put away the rune talisman and sped up, rushing towards the depths of the divine prison of law. About 10 days later, a space filled with black clouds and mist blocked his path. The dark clouds and mist emitted a gloomy aura, giving off an extremely dangerous feeling. Moreover, the clouds and mist had a strange power that could make one's primordial spirit and Tao heart lose their minds. Once one entered, one would unknowingly be lost within. Thump, thump, thump. A series of extremely heavy footsteps came from the clouds and mist. It felt as if the entire divine prison of law was trembling. As the clouds and mist churned, a bronze puppet that was hundreds of feet tall could be seen striding through the clouds and mist. It emitted a terrifying, murderous aura and a sharp aura that set off airwaves, causing the clouds and mist to surge. In its hand, it held a huge mace that flashed with black lightning. Su Fong shuddered at the sight of it. This bronze puppet's strength was no weaker than Ji Zixing and that demon master. Moreover, it controlled the power of the divine prison of Heaven's Law, and its strength was even at the terrifying peak of the Overgod realm. Only sovereigns could suppress it. In the clouds and mist, one could see many cultivators, big goblin puppets, and tall deity statues patrolling back and forth. Bursts of murderous aura filled the sky. This is probably the Maze Square that Tsang Yinhai mentioned. Su Fong was extremely shocked. After circling around the periphery of the clouds and mist, he found that this area was boundless and surrounded the main palace. If he wanted to enter the main palace, he had to pass through the clouds and mist. Young Master Turbid Wave, aren't you very arrogant? Why don't you dare to enter? Luo Xingtian's mocking voice came from behind. Su Fong snorted coldly and didn't say anything. A frog at the bottom of a well. Luo Xingtian snorted contemptuously. Then he said to Di Yuan, "Young Master Di Yuan, do you need me to lend you a hand?" Di Yuan said indifferently, "No need. Then this young master will not decline and will take the first step. Luo Xingtian walked into the mist with his head held high. Whoosh! QL-11 Luo Xingtian took out the prison guarding general's token and released his blood chi at the same time. He had merged with a drop of the Luo clan's sovereign emperor's blood in Sin Garden. Although he had lost a lot of it to merge with the Tree of Stars, he still had most of it left. The ancestor of the Luo clan was the supreme expert who guarded the divine prison of law. The blood of his descendants had a certain ability to restrain all the power of the divine prison of law. At this time, Luo Xingtian had activated the blood chi of the Luo clan's sovereign emperor. The clouds and mist within 100 feet of him immediately rolled and automatically opened up a path for him. Those divine prison puppets and prison guards sensed the aura of the Luo clan's ancestor in the blood chi and all bowed. Even the extremely powerful bronze puppet lowered its huge head. Luo Xingtian showed a smug look and walked arrogantly into the depths of the maze square. Di Yuan raised his eyebrows and showed a trace of hesitation in his eyes. In the end, he made a decisive decision and rolled out a golden xianguang with his right hand. The xianguang flashed, and a 3-foot-long golden xianguang appeared. Huang is identical to imperial decree diluted. The golden xianguang was densely covered with mysterious words and released a protective divine aura that shrouded Di Yuan. The aura of the golden xianguang contained a supreme divine aura that could control heaven and earth. It actually dispersed the surrounding mist within 1,000 feet radius. Swoosh! Swoosh! Those powerful prison guards and puppets all knelt on one knee. The bronze puppet also knelt on the ground with a bang. The mace in its hand smashed on the ground, causing the earth to shake. Luo Xingtian, who was in front, showed jealousy in his eyes when he saw this scene. You're just relying on the supreme treasure of the imperial people. One is relying on the blood chi of the ancient divine clan, and the other is relying on the supreme divine weapon. As for me, I can only rely on myself. Su Fong showed a domineering smile and strode into the clouds and mist. You're courting death. Even if you don't lose your will and Dao heart, you'll still be suppressed by those prison guards and puppets. You're courting death. Luo Xingtian sneered disdainfully and looked at Su Fong as if he was looking at a dead man. Di Yuan turned his head to look at Su Fong and smiled casually. Idiot! Su Fong walked step by step into the Zue Square. Whoosh! The clouds and mist rolled. The invisible power of the primordial spirit that lost its consciousness swept towards Su Fong like a tide. Boom! 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 The incomparably powerful bronze puppet and hundreds of prison guards and puppets charged towards Su Fong. Su Fong projected the power of the yin-yang world to the outside world. The aura of the fruit of sin and the power of the heavenly Tao covered an area of 10,000 feet. In an instant, the clouds and mist became quiet, and the tide-like power of the primordial spirit attack instantly calmed down. Boom! 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 Under Su Fong's divine aura, the prison guards and puppets all knelt on the ground in unison. Their bodies trembled uncontrollably, and they appeared to be extremely respectful and even fearful. The bronze puppet also knelt on the ground with its upper body on the ground. It was actually worshipping Su Fong. Luo Xingtian and Di Yuan, one with the bloodline aura of the Luo clan elite and the other with the treasures of the imperial people, made these puppets respect and fear them. However, what they respected and feared was not the puppets themselves, but the powerful beings behind them. Su Fong had the power of the heavenly Tao order, which was all of his own power. It represented the supreme heavenly Tao, and these puppets instinctively respected and feared him. This was the difference between Su Fong, Luo Xingtian, and Di Yuan. How is this possible? Who is this young Master Zhuolong? He actually has the supreme power to make the divine prison of law puppets submit to him. When Luo Xingtian and Di Yuan saw this scene, they were both surprised and shocked. They looked at Su Fong in disbelief. The powerful bronze puppet strode in front of Su Fong and opened a path for Su Fong. Su Fong caught up with him step by step in front of their incredulous eyes. The two of them had no choice but to move aside. Otherwise, they would be trampled into meat paste by the terrifying bronze puppet. I'm Diyuan. Diyuan cupped his fists. Obviously, he wanted to be on good terms with Su Fang. Luo Xingtian also cupped his fists. Young Master Zhuolong, I didn't expect you to be so extraordinary. I'm Luo Xingtian, from the Luo clan in the ancient god realm. If there's a chance, let's get to know each other better. Su Fang smiled casually. Without saying a word, he calmly passed the two of them and went straight to the depths of the Mei Square. Diyuan smiled embarrassedly and showed a displeased look. Arrogant fool who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You'll get it later. Luo Xingtian snorted coldly. His heart was filled with jealousy. However, when he saw the bronze puppet, his eyes were filled with fear. About 10 days later, Su Fang finally walked out of the Mei Square. The bronze puppet bowed to Su Fang and then disappeared in the thick fog. As soon as Su Fang walked out of the fog, he immediately felt a cold and solemn aura. The coldness that seeped into his bones made him tremble involuntarily. He looked over. He saw a majestic and magnificent huge palace standing in front of him. The palace was mainly black in color. It was gloomy and had a solemn aura. Every brick and tile gave Su Fang a feeling of strict law and binding heaven and earth. Su Fang's heart skipped a beat. This is the main palace of the divine prison of law. What a terrifying palace. Chapter 2291. The main hall of the divine prison of law was surrounded by an extremely powerful barrier. Su Fang estimated that even venerable sovereigns would have to pay a heavy price if they wanted to force their way in. They might even be suppressed by the divine prison of law. After all, the divine prison of law represented the order of the heavenly Tao. Although venerable sovereigns were extremely powerful, they had not yet reached the point where they could transcend heaven and earth, so they were still bound by the order of the heavenly Tao. From a square below, there were steps leading to the main hall's door. The only way to enter the main hall was through the steps and the door. Su Fang counted a total of 999 steps. These steps looked like they were piled up from ordinary black rocks, but they actually concealed extremely powerful formations. Each step was a formation. Su Fang unleashed his great perfection ability and his all-seeing eye. He could see that each step was shrouded in starlight, forming an astonishing shackle. In the square below the steps, thousands of cultivators sat cross-legged. The Tao-fusing protectors from Gray Flame Sea and the Sanctum of Sages were also among them. They stood out among the crowd. On their way here, at least half of the people had died. It seemed that the news of the divine prison of law had attracted many experts. Su Fang's divine light swept out and saw everyone's faces. He could not help but be shocked when he saw those peerless experts. There was a skinny old man whose cultivation base surpassed Gray Flame Seas. He was definitely not an ordinary upper-rank lord. He was a grand elder of the Yuan Tiangong's punishment hall. The skinny old man in a starry robe was the Luo clan's grand elder, Luo Yunshin. There was also the Ji people's second patriarch, who looked like a 17 or 18-year-old youth, but exuded an ancient aura. His face was gloomy, like a volcano that would erupt at any time. It was no wonder that the Ji people's experts who entered the divine prison of law had all died, including a middle-rank lord. The Ji people's second patriarch was naturally in a bad mood. There were also a few upper-rank lords. Although they looked unfamiliar, it was not difficult for Su Fang to guess who they were. It was a tall and mighty Buddhist elder with fist-sized prayer beads hanging in front of his chest. He sat there cross-legged like a huge mountain, giving off a ferocious and holy Buddhist aura. Su Fang felt that his cultivation was even stronger than Sang Yanhai's. Qian Gang stood respectfully beside the Buddhist sect's old man. It was obvious that this Buddhist sect's cultivator was the Buddha of fortune from the divine world's western Pure Land. The other middle-aged man had a thin and frail figure. However, he had an incomparably sharp aura. He had an aura that could tear apart the heavens and the earth, as well as a terrifying aura that could destroy everything. Il Woyang stood by his side. Clearly, this was a peerless expert from the Yi clan. In addition, there was another powerful expert beside Chu Bingyan. This was a black-robed old man whose cultivation was unfathomable. He seemed to be Chu Bingyin Sr. There was also a white-robed middle-aged man. Compared to the other peerless lords, this person's cultivation was very ordinary. He was just an ordinary lord. However, this person occupied the spot closest to the steps. That was because he was from the supreme imperial people. Even the most ordinary member of the imperial people would be respected by any expert. There were more than 1,000 cultivators sitting cross-legged around these experts. They were all itinerant cultivators from various divine worlds. Each of them had an extraordinary cultivation base. However, there were no powerful experts among them. As soon as Su Fong appeared, he immediately attracted the attention of the crowd. Several powerful and imperious auras swept past his body. This was especially true for the Ji people's second patriarch. He looked at everyone as if they were the murderers of the Ji people's experts. However, he could sense that Su Fong's cultivation base was only at the fourth heaven of the Tao integration stage. Therefore, he ignored Su Fong. The hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit had a puzzled look in his eyes after his divine light swept past Su Fong. Clearly, he was suspicious of Su Fong. Su Fong sat cross-legged outside the crowd of itinerant cultivators. He had no intention of revealing his identity. Although Tsang Yanhai and many guards were present, the Luo clan, Ji people, Sanskrit, and Yi clan were all eyeing Su Fong covetously. Su Fong had no choice but to be careful. Moreover, his target was the prison suppressing codex and the heaven supervisor token in the main hall. It would be beneficial for him to hide in the dark now. Lord Tsang Yanhai, what's the situation now? Su Fong secretly transmitted his essence spirit to Tsang Yanhai. Tsang Yanhai replied, Saint Su Fong, you've already passed through Mei Square and arrived here. I understand now. Saint Su Fong is indeed unfathomable. Even I couldn't see through your disguise. Don't make a fuss. Of course I understand. The peerless experts from various forces finally came to an agreement under the strong suppression of the Punishment Hall's Grand Elder after some debate. Powerful lords who have surpassed the Tao integration realm are not allowed to enter the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law. There are precious treasures hidden in the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law. Why would those peerless experts agree? Saint, there's something you don't know. Listen to me. It turned out that the steps leading from the square to the main hall were called the Heavenly Law Path. There were shocking shackles. The stronger one was, the greater the shackles. Moreover, once one displayed strength that surpassed the Tao integration realm, it would trigger the Heavenly Law Palace's formation. Even upper-rank lords would find it difficult to withstand. Therefore, these lords gave up on entering the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law and allowed the Tao integration cultivators for various forces to enter. Now, they could only wait for Di Yuan and Luo Xingtian to arrive. These Yuan Tiangong geniuses would be the first to pass the Heavenly Law Path and enter the main hall. Those itinerant cultivators without any backing could also take the Heavenly Law Path as long as they were strong enough. However, the Heavenly Law Path was extremely dangerous. Very few could reach the end and enter the main hall. After waiting for about 3 days, Di Yuan was the first to walk out of the fog, breaking free of the restraints of the maze square. With a sweep of divine light, he headed straight for the middle-aged man in white from the imperial people. Congratulations, Xiao Zun. You'll definitely reap a great harvest after entering Sin Garden. The middle-aged man in white from the imperial people transmitted his voice to Di Yuan. Di Yuan snorted. I failed on the verge of success. I gained nothing. The powerful man in white from the imperial people said in surprise. How can this be? Il Woyang, Chu Bingyin, and other Yuan Tiangong geniuses who entered Sin Garden by accident were lucky enough to obtain plant spear treasures. Why did you return empty-handed, Xiao Zun? Something happened in Sin Garden. Let's not talk about it. We, the supreme imperial people, have no lack of supreme spirit treasures. However, Xiao Zun must obtain that important treasure in the main hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law. If I can't obtain it, no one else can. Another 2 days passed. Luo Xingtian finally walked out of the fog and came to the square outside the main hall. Seeing Luo Xingtian's dispirited appearance, Luo Yunshun, the first elder of the Luo clan, immediately came to Luo Xingtian's side. What happened? Why are you like this? Luo Xingtian transmitted his thoughts and slowly told Luo Yunshun about the strange things that happened in Sin Garden. QL 11-inch useless person. The clan spent so much effort on you. That tree of stars was the hope of our clan's future, but you buried it. Stupid, really stupid. Luo Xingtian defended himself. First Elder, how can you blame me for this? Shut up. How dare you quibble? Luo Yunshun was so angry that his face was distorted. Then he said coldly, if you can't get the prison suppression codex and the Heaven Supervisor token in the main hall and lose to Su Fong, even if the Yuan Tiangong doesn't punish you, the clan's strict rules will not forgive you. Yes. Luo Xingtian trembled. After searching for a while, Luo Xingtian didn't see Su Fong. He finally felt better. Even if I can't obtain the Prison Suppression Sutra and the Sky Supervisor token, Su Fong still can't beat me. Luo Yunshun snorted. How did the Luo clan nurture such a stupid person like you? Whether Su Fong is dead or alive, how big of an impact would it have on my Luo clan? The Prison Suppression Codex and the Heaven Supervisor token are the most important, especially the Heaven Supervisor token. If you can't get this supreme artifact, you won't be able to escape punishment. Luo Xingtian was filled with hatred, but he could only agree obediently. Luo Yunshun immediately suggested to the first elder of the punishment hall that the Yuan Tiangong geniuses should start the path of heaven and enter the main hall to search for treasures. Song Yinhai immediately objected. Su Fong is the saint who has surpassed the Yuan Tiangong's 4 realms geniuses. Who dares to enter the main hall before he arrives? Luo Yunshun sneered. If he dies somewhere else in the Heaven's Law Divine prison, no one can enter? The Yuan Tiangong, first elder of the punishment hall, said coldly. Patriarch Luo, be careful with your words. The saint of Su Fong is second only to the great god Dizun. If you disrespect the saint again, don't blame the Yuan Tiangong's laws for being strict. Luo Yunshun snorted inexplicably and sat down with Luo Xingtian. They waited for another 10 years. Su Fong still didn't appear. However, some experts passed through the fog of the Sin Square and arrived outside the main hall. Su Fong still didn't appear, causing everyone to talk about it. Some people guessed that he was trapped somewhere in the Heaven's Law Divine prison, or that he might have died long ago. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses all had different reactions. Di Yuan seemed very disappointed, while Luo Xingtian and Yi Luoyang were gloating. The first elder of the punishment hall said majestically, since the saint of Su Fong still hasn't appeared, I'm afraid something unexpected will happen if we wait any longer. Everyone, Yuan Tiangong geniuses, enter the main hall. Di Yuan and the other Yuan Tiangong geniuses stood up one after another. There were only a dozen Yuan Tiangong geniuses who came to the Heaven's Law Divine prison to train. As the news that the Heaven Ruined Temple was the Heaven's Law Divine prison spread, many more people came, but there were no Heaven Realm geniuses among them. I'll remind you first, do what you can and don't lose your life. The first elder of the punishment hall waved his hand. Go! Swoosh! Swoosh! Led by the great god Dizun, many Yuan Tiangong geniuses flew toward the Heaven's Law Divine path. When they were about 100 feet away from the first step, Di Yuan changed to walking and walked up the step step by step. Some geniuses couldn't wait and wanted to show off, so they directly flew toward the Heaven's Law Divine path. Swoosh! Swoosh! The 3 leading geniuses had just flown to the top of the first step when they felt the starlight sweeping over and condensing into a starlight shackle around their necks. Chapter 2292. The other Yuan Tiangong geniuses who were rushing toward the stairs were all shocked. They quickly retreated and landed on the square. Useless trash. The first elder of the punishment hall snorted and grabbed at the air. A divine power passed through the first step and grabbed the seriously injured Yuan Tiangong genius, slowly pulling him out. Even though he was an upper-rank Lord God, it took him a lot of effort to pull that genius out of the shackles, which showed how amazing the shackles on the stairs were. The other two injured geniuses urged their blood chi to heal their injuries, but they found that it was extremely difficult to do so in the array of the stairs. It turned out that the shackles on their necks contained a kind of supreme power that prevented their blood chi from healing their divine bodies. It was impossible for them to recover in a short time. The two geniuses could only climb out of the first step awkwardly. As soon as they left the array of the first step, the shackles on their bodies disappeared, and their ability to heal their divine bodies returned to normal. Some geniuses felt as if a bucket of ice water had been poured on their heads when they saw this. Their hot-blooded desire to fight for the treasure instantly turned into ice dregs. The first elder of the punishment hall shouted at the Yuan Tiangong geniuses, "The divine prison of law is a prison that suppresses all the experts in the universe. The path of heavenly law is used to deter those prisoners. I don't know why, but the restriction on the path of heavenly law has been activated. Once you step on the path of heavenly law, you will be treated as prisoners." At this point, the first elder of the punishment hall's tone became cold. On the path of heavenly law, you will be injured at best, in your Taoist heart, and will collapse at worst. You will even be transported to the inner prison of the divine prison of law. It's hard to say whether you will live or die. I can't save you every time. Think carefully. It's not too late to give up now. Most of the weaker Earth Realm and Profound Realm disciples immediately gave up on the idea of entering the main hall to search for the treasure. Di Yuan, Il Woyang, Chu Bingyan, Luo Xingtian, Qian Gang, and the other geniuses all smiled proudly and fearlessly as they strode onto the first step. As soon as they entered the array, their bodies suddenly sank and heavy shackles quickly formed around their necks. As expected of the peerless geniuses of Yuan Tiangong's Heaven Realm and Earth Realm. Even though they were shackled, they still moved forward steadily. After 2 or 3 steps, they all stepped onto the second step. At this time, the shackles suddenly doubled in strength. Looking from the outside, it seemed as if a star was pressing down on each of the geniuses. It was as if they were pushing the star forward. After a dozen or so steps, the gap between the geniuses gradually became apparent. On the path of heavenly law, the cold power of the heavenly Tao not only shackled the God body, God dwellings, and God apertures, but also shackled the Tao heart and will. Therefore, on the path of heavenly law, the strength and Tao hearts of these geniuses could be seen clearly at a glance. Luo Xingtian and some of the Earth Realm geniuses were at the very back. The gap between them and the other geniuses was very obvious. Then it was Qian Gang and Chu Bingyan. Il Woyang was actually neck and neck with Di Yuan, displaying astonishing strength. Di Yuan and Il Woyang ascended to the 100th floor. Voila, the starlight projected from the array actually condensed into a pair of shackles, firmly shackling their feet. Now, it became difficult for them to move. Their speed immediately slowed down. Soon, some Earth Realm geniuses caught up. After a genius reached the 100th floor, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Before he could even take a breath, his feet were shackled by the shackles. With a miserable scream, he could not bear the heavy pressure of the shackles and shackles. His god body immediately shattered. His god body was secondary. His Tao heart and will also collapse because he could not bear the shackles of the shackles. He fell into a dazed state. Voila, from the array around him, a chain stretched out and wrapped around this genius. It directly dragged him into the depths of the array and disappeared without a trace. No one knew where he was sent to. This scene once again frightened many geniuses. Immediately, another dozen or so geniuses gave up and returned to the square step by step from the stairs. Most of the rogue cultivators who originally thought they could enter the main hall of the divine prison of heavenly law to search for treasures gave up on the idea. However, there were still some who scoffed at the performance of the Yuan Tiangong geniuses. They thought that they were much better than those geniuses who looked good but were useless. The great elder of punishments looked at the rogue cultivators and said majestically, "If I don't let you try, you will definitely think that the Yuan Tiangong geniuses bully others. Now, I will give you a chance. However, When the time comes, life and death will be determined by fate. If you encounter any mishaps on the path of heavenly law or in the main hall, I will not be responsible. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. There were about 100 rogue cultivators. Su Fong mixed in with the crowd and flew toward the path of heavenly law. With the lesson of those geniuses, these rogue cultivators did not dare to be careless. They carefully entered the array and walked up the stairs against the astonishing shackles. Su Fong stepped into the array. Starlight fell like a waterfall and quickly condensed into shackles around his neck. Such shackles are too easy for me. However, I can't expose myself for the time being. I'll just slowly follow behind. His figure swayed, and then he took 2 steps with difficulty and stepped onto the second step. He possessed the power of the heavenly Tao order. The shackles of the array on the path of heavenly law could be easily resolved with just a slight activation of his power. However, in order to not arouse suspicion, he could only climb up step by step. He could not appear to be too relaxed. As he climbed up, Su Fong secretly peeled off his yang spirit and entered the origin sacred mirror, transmitting his thoughts to the depths of the mirror. Shu Wanjin's voice came along with the cold aura. We are about to enter the main hall. Why are you not concentrating on seizing the prison suppressing codex and the heavenly supervisor token? I possess the power of the heavenly Tao order. The path of heavenly law is very easy for me. I have a lot of questions and would like to ask Senior Sister. Ask away. My knowledge of the heavenly law divine prison is also very limited. I've always been curious. Why would the heavenly law divine prison appear here with the Advent Divine Palace? The Advent Divine Palace appeared in the myriad heavens and 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 myriad heavens chessboard. How would I know these secrets? Why are all the prison suppressing experts in the heavenly law divine prison gone, leaving only a few puppets? I reckon that when the heavenly law divine prison descended here with the Advent Divine Palace, something huge happened. So all the prison suppressing experts in the heavenly law divine prison left. That's possible. There's one more thing that I can't figure out. The divine prison of law is a prison where the celestial venerate mountain suppresses the peerless experts of the myriad worlds. Although there are dangers everywhere, the dangers we encountered along the way are not as great as we imagined. The heavenly law divine prison does not have any experts overseeing it. It operates on its own, so its power is naturally greatly reduced. Perhaps the real danger should be in the main hall. When you obtain the prison suppressing codex and heavenly supervisor token, you may be able to find some clues and even understand some of the secrets of the heavenly law divine palace. I hope so. Don't be careless. Everything from the celestial venerate mountain is beyond your imagination. If you're not careful, you'll be consigned to eternal damnation. In addition, don't underestimate those geniuses from the ancient god world. The ancient god clans of the ancient god world have an incomparably strong foundation and are inextricably linked to the celestial venerate mountain. They have an absolute advantage in the heavenly law divine prison, so don't let her guard down. Su Fong is clear. I hope you can obtain the prison suppressing codex and heavenly supervisor token. When that time comes, your strength will definitely increase greatly. In addition, when you leave the heavenly law divine prison, assimilate the rainbow stone lotus as soon as possible and attempt the 8th transformation. When Shu Wanjin finished speaking, her voice gradually faded away along with the cold breath, finally disappearing into the space-time of the origin sacred mirror. The higher they went, the slower everyone's speed. The various shackles on their bodies also became heavier and heavier. One after another, people exited the heavenly law path. There were also some unlucky cultivators whose wills collapsed and were directly sent out of the heavenly law path by the array. Of course, they wouldn't be sent back to the square, but to an unknown place. Perhaps it was the true prison of the heavenly law divine prison. Su Fong climbed up unhurriedly, gradually passing experts one after another. In the end, he surpassed most of the Yuan Tiangong geniuses. It wasn't that his speed was too fast, but that these geniuses were too slow. At the 500th step, Su Fong calmly walked past Luo Xingtian. This young master hasn't shown his true strength. Do you really think you can surpass this young master? Luo Xingtian shouted domineeringly. A majestic blood qi erupted from his body, shattering the shackles on his body layer by layer. Then, Luo Xingtian rose like a shooting star in defiance of the heavens. He took large strides forward, almost taking one step at a time. He quickly surpassed Su Fong, then Chu Bingyan, Qian Gang, and the others. He went straight for Di Yuan and Il Woyang. Su Fong smiled casually, maintaining his original speed. It seemed difficult, but in fact, he took step after step calmly. About 20 years later, Su Fong took step after step up the 900th step. At this moment, only Di Yuan, Il Woyang, and Luo Xingtian remained in front of him. Even geniuses like Chu Bingyan and Qian Gang were left behind. Su Fong's appearance attracted the attention of many powerhouses in the square below. They all guessed at his identity. It wasn't that there weren't any upper-rank, lord-level powerhouses who guessed his true identity. However, from his aura, it was difficult to sense the slightest connection with Su Fong. These powerhouses had no choice but to dismiss these guesses. Some people even speculated that Su Fong was a demon tribe powerhouse in disguise. After all, the demon tribe had many evil and strange techniques. It was not difficult for them to hide or even change their aura. Luo Xingtian borrowed the blood qi of the Luo clan's emperors. His speed was also extremely shocking. In the end, he surpassed Di Yuan and Il Woyang and was far ahead. The Luo clan has the secret of the heavenly law divine prison. We can't let Luo Xingtian enter the main palace first. Otherwise, the prison-suppressing codex and the heavenly supervisor token might fall into his hands. Chapter 2293. The power of the shackles released by the path of heavenly law condensed into shackles and fetters. Its power was truly astonishing. It seeped into a cultivator's meridians, flesh, divine dwellings, and divine apertures, preventing them from circulating their divine essence. Even their dermic powers could not be used. They could only perform a small cycle of internal energy. Not to mention breaking the shackles. Even resisting the power of shackles was extremely difficult. Su Fong actually broke through all kinds of shackles with the power of the heavenly Tao order. Such ability was truly astonishing. Those experts on the square all exclaimed when they saw this scene. Even those peerless experts who had reached the peak of the Lord level could only weaken the shackles at most. It was very difficult for them to break through the shackles like Su Fong. Moreover, Su Fong was different from Luo Xingtian. Luo Xingtian borrowed the blood energy of the Luo clan's venerable emperors, while Su Fong relied entirely on his own strength. Su Fong walked up the steps as if he was flying. Then, these experts were shocked to discover that Su Fong was actually absorbing and controlling the power of the heavenly Tao order in the path of heavenly law. He was not consuming his own energy. What kind of great Tao is this person cultivating? He can actually control the power of the heavenly Tao order? Even the supreme imperial people can't do it. How did this person do it? Could it be he's cultivating the great Tao of order? Why is his aura a Tao reunion cultivator cultivating the great Tao of water? Under numerous gazes that were filled with surprise, Su Fong rose up in a heaven-defying manner and swiftly caught up to Il Woyang. This person is just an itinerant cultivator. How can he surpass me? A fierce look flashed in Il Woyang's eyes. He suddenly stretched out 2 fingers and pointed at his glabella. Swoosh! The tightly shut eye on his glabella suddenly opened and shot out a gray Xinguang. An arrow imbued with the power to annihilate all life shot towards Su Fong's back. You're courting death. A fierce aura surged in Su Fong's heart. A black and white yin-yang vortex surged in his eyes. The black and white Xian Guang flashed, projecting out to envelop Il Woyang, transforming into a mysterious yin and yang whirlpool, reflecting the light and shadow of the past. All of this happened in a split second. Il Woyang's arrow of extinction was not nearly as fast as when he cast it in the natural world due to the various restraints of the path of heavenly law. By the time Su Fong cast the Art of Destiny, the arrow of extinction was still 3 meters away from Su Fong. Su Fong ignored the arrow of extinction. He grabbed at the air and pulled out a streak of light from the yin and yang vortex around Il Woyang. It was the scene where Il Woyang had just launched a sneak attack on Su Fong. Il Woyang discovered to his astonishment that his body had actually uncontrollably transformed from corporeal to illusory, and that illusory figure of light was swiftly becoming corporeal. The arrow of extermination also turned into nothingness in an instant. The terrifying power that could exterminate all life also disappeared in an instant. Dying. Ever since he entered the palace as a Yuan Tiangong, Il Woyang had been trying to kill Su Fong at every turn. This time, he had launched a sneak attack for no reason at all. Su Fong had already harbored killing intent towards him. However, the Yi clan was extremely powerful. Su Fong did not dare to kill him openly. Now that Su Fong had disguised himself, he no longer had any misgivings. With his current identity, even if the Yi clan suspected him afterwards, he did not fear anything. As a result, he used his most powerful trump card, the Art of Destiny. A mere independent cultivator dares to touch a supreme genius of my clan? How can I possibly let you off? Just as Il Woyang was about to die, the middle-aged man from the Yi clan in the square let out a thunderous roar. As soon as he spoke, a mighty arrow shot out from his eyes, instantly sweeping across the sky. It passed through space and the layers of restraint of the path of heavenly law, appearing before Su Fong. However, the might of the arrow had been whittled down by the layers of restraints to less than 1/10 of its power. It was easily neutralized by Su Fong. Il Woyang finally reacted and hurriedly rolled down the stairs. Seeing this, the Yi clan expert immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, in the next moment, his divine light changed. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, which quickly condensed into a doppelganger in front of him. Boom! A black chain of lightning suddenly flashed out of the void and wrapped around the doppelganger. With a light coil, the doppelganger was immediately reduced to ashes. The lightning chain's might did not diminish, and it actually went straight for the Yi clan expert's true body. The great elder of the punishment hall, Luo Yunshun, and the Ji people's second patriarch acted together and finally shattered the lightning chain. The Yi clan expert was so frightened that his face turned ashen. He did not expect that just saving Il Woyang would result in such a terrifying punishment. He had almost lost his life. Il Woyang rolled down a dozen steps in succession before coming to a stop. Seeing that Su Fong had no intention of chasing after him, he finally calmed down a little. You can't even withstand a single blow. The next time I see you, I'll definitely take your dog life. Su Fong revealed a domineering sneer. He swept a disdainful glance at Il Woyang and then went straight up. It was not that he did not want to kill Il Woyang, but he had used up nearly 1/5 of his life force to use the heavenly revolving fate technique just now. Moreover, Il Woyang was not an ordinary genius. If he could not kill him with a fatal blow just now, even if he could kill him, he would have to pay a heavy price to continue chasing after him. It was not worth it. Looking at Su Fong's back, Il Woyang's eyes were filled with intense hatred and fear from the bottom of his heart. Strong, he was really too strong. After a dozen steps, Su Fong caught up with Di Yuan. Who exactly are you? How can you be like a fish in water in the divine prison of heaven's law? Di Yuan stared at Su Fong and asked in a low voice. Could it be that young Master Di Yuan also wants to kill me like that, Il Woyang? Su Fong revealed a spurious smile. Di Yuan smiled casually. From your aura, this young Master Di Yuan guessed that you're not more than 10 million years old. With your talent, you have surpassed most of the geniuses in Yuan Tiangong. Even this young Master Di Yuan is slightly inferior. This young Master Di Yuan can recommend you to join the Yuan Tiangong and obtain resources that no one can match. You will eventually reach the peak. What do you think? The Yuan Tiangong is the backyard of the top forces in the ancient god world. This young master has no interest in that place. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. Seeing that Luo Xingtian's figure had disappeared at the end of the divine prison of heaven's law, Su Fang's divine light changed slightly. He quickly passed Di Yuan and chased after Luo Xingtian. Di Yuan's gaze, when looking at Su Fang, became cold all of a sudden. Whoosh! After stepping on the 999th step, the shackles and fetters on his body immediately disappeared. More than half of the shackles disappeared. It was as if a mountain had been removed from his body. Whoosh! He calmed his breathing and looked over. 10 feet away, there was the solemn and cold door of the main hall. However, the door was tightly shut. Where did Luo Xingtian go? Su Fang used his great perfection ability and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to sense Luo Xingtian's aura. However, Luo Xingtian seemed to have evaporated. He couldn't sense his aura at all. He didn't know where he had gone in such a short time. Even the heavenly secret life shrinking technique and the great perfection ability couldn't sense his aura. Then, Su Fang projected his sensing power onto the door of the hall. The door of the hall is integrated with the array of the entire main hall. Not to mention me, even a venerable Emperor Master would find it difficult to break through the door. If he tried to break through the door, he would definitely suffer a powerful attack. Su Fang frowned. He thought for a moment. Su Fang suddenly formed a seal. A divine power of the great Tao of time, combined with the power of the world Tao and the heavenly way order, radiated around the main hall. In an instant, time flowed backward. Luo Xingtian's figure appeared at the door of the hall. The proud smile on his face could even be seen clearly. He didn't stop at the door. He went around from the right side to the back of the main hall and disappeared. Su Fang snorted. The prison suppressing codex and the heavenly supervisor token must be in the main hall. Luo Xingtian abandoned the main hall and went to the other side halls. Obviously, he has other plans. Then, Su Fang strode in the direction where Luo Xingtian disappeared. Bypassing the main hall, he saw that there were about 100 side halls behind it. He didn't know what they were used for. Su Fang came to a side hall. He rolled out a divine power and bombarded the door of the hall. To Su Fang's surprise, the door of the hall opened with a bang. Su Fang peeled off a yang spirit and carefully flew in through the door of the hall. However, as soon as the yang spirit entered the hall, he lost contact with it. It wasn't destroyed, but his senses were cut off. Let's go in and take a look. But now that we've entered the real danger of the divine prison of law, we must be careful at all times. We can't be careless. Su Fang activated the power of the heavenly Tao order in his body. At the same time, he also activated the ancestral dragon armor. The power of the world of Yin and Yang in the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace was also ready. He took a step into the side hall. A distorted divine power immediately shrouded him. Then he felt a sense of weightlessness. Fortunately, he was protected by the power of the heavenly Tao order, so it didn't form a shackle on him. After a moment, he seemed to have returned from reality to an illusion. To be precise, he should have arrived at a terrifying hell. In a space of nothingness, there were no less than 10 million copper pillars floating in the air. Each of the copper pillars had a diameter of 3 meters, and they were covered in mysterious heavenly marks, with chains hanging down from them. Screams and cries could be heard coming from the copper pillars. With the primordial spirit, he could see that there was a primordial spirit locked on the copper pillar. Void fire constantly gushed out from the copper pillar, incessantly burning the shadow. There were also a few burning corpses hanging on the copper pillars. They were sizzling from the heat of the copper pillars. These corpses included cultivators, big goblin, and demons. However, they were all lifeless. However, their primordial spirits hadn't completely disappeared. They were constantly being burned and tortured by the void primordial spirit flames. QL 11-inch. This side hall should be a torture chamber used to torture prisoners in the divine prison of law. Su Fang was shocked to the core. He didn't dare to stay any longer and hurriedly left the side hall. Next, Su Fang entered another side hall. This side hall was also a torture chamber. However, The difference was that the interior of the side hall wasn't filled with copper pillars, but with guillotines. Chapter 2294. These side halls are all punishment halls where the suppressed experts are tortured. I wonder what kind of heaven-defying crimes these experts have committed to make them suffer such torment and never be free. I wonder if the hall master of the punishment hall is still in the punishment hall. If he's still there, no matter if he's dead or alive, as long as I get his token, I should be able to enter the main hall. Luo Xingtian has obviously entered one of the side halls to look for something like a token before entering the main hall. Su Fong made up his mind and flew carefully into the depths of the beheading punishment hall. There were amazing shackles in the beheading punishment hall. If Su Fong had not absorbed a lot of the power of heavenly way order from the Rainbow Stone Lotus, he would not have been able to move an inch in the inner space of the punishment hall. Moreover, there was a cold and evil aura in the punishment hall. Coupled with the screams of Yuan spirits, it constantly impacted one's Tao heart and will, as if he had entered the legendary hell. Fortunately, he did not encounter any puppets or jailers along the way. Otherwise, it would have been even more troublesome. Along the way, Su Fong released his sensing power to sense the tortured Yuan spirits. The Yuan spirits, tortured by the beheading punishment hall, were all extremely powerful. Su Fong speculated that the Yuan spirits shackled here were at least at the level of Lord God. There were no less than 10 million Yuan spirits shackled in the inner space of the beheading punishment hall. It was really hard to imagine how many experts were suppressed in the divine prison of law. Su Fong even suspected that there might be emperor masters who had surpassed the master god realm suppressed in the divine prison of heaven's law. Such supreme existences would definitely not be shackled in a punishment hall like the beheading punishment hall. Su Fong originally wanted to communicate with the shackled Yuan Shun, but who knew that there was an incorporeal and powerful Yuan Shun defense around the guillotine. With Su Fong's Yuan Shun, it was impossible for him to penetrate into the guillotine. Even if he could penetrate inside, Su Fong had a feeling that if he did so, he would trigger the supreme heavenly way of the divine prison of law, which would give him a devastating punishment. Su Fong did not dare to act rashly and flew into the depths of the beheading punishment hall with extreme caution. About 3 days, in the depths of the beheading punishment hall, there was a floating altar with a rectangular throne on top of it. He scanned the throne with his great perfection vision and saw a shriveled corpse leaning against the throne. Around the throne, there were piles of broken bones. Judging from the clothes on the bones, these people were the guards of the God of Heaven Law prison when they were alive. The guards of the Heavenly Law Divine Palace are at least at the Tao integration stage. Even if they die, their bodies won't rot. Besides, this is the divine prison of Heaven's Law. These jailers are protected by the divine might of the divine prison of Heaven's Law, so their corpses shouldn't have been damaged to this extent. Moreover, it hasn't even been 1,000,000 years since the first upheaval. Even a divine emperor's corpse wouldn't have decayed so quickly, let alone a Tao fusing expert. This means that when these prison guards were alive, their flesh, blood, yang spirit, and divine essence were all drained away, which led to the decay of their corpses. What happened in the divine prison of law? Su Fong was extremely shocked. He slowed down and flew toward the altar. When he was 1,000 feet away from the altar, Su Fong released his divine might and swept the corpse on the throne toward him. From the Taoist robe on the corpse, he could tell that this person's identity was extraordinary. He should be the hall master of the beheading punishment hall. Su Fong sent his consciousness into the corpse and found that although this person's corpse was in a better condition than the jailer's, there wasn't a trace of life essence in the corpse. Su Fong also found an extremely weak but extremely evil aura of death from the corpse. This person's life essence was devoured by a resurrected expert. There are also resurrected experts in the divine prison of Heaven's Law. It seems like Senior Sister is right. The appearance of the divine prison of Heaven's Law, and even the Advent Palace in the divine world, is related to the upheaval of heaven and earth. Su Fong speculated, and the conclusion he came to made his heart turn cold. If there were resurrected experts in the divine prison of Heaven's Law, it wouldn't be so easy to obtain the prison suppressing codex and heaven supervisor token. Su Fong found a storage ring inside the withered corpse. The style of the storage ring was very simple and crude. It was of a much higher grade than the storage rings used by the deities in the divine world. As the storage ring was now ownerless, Su Fong easily sent his consciousness into it. The space inside the storage ring was more than 10 times larger than ordinary storage rings. There were ocean-like resources floating in it. There were ancient elixirs, divine weapons, all kinds of gems, origin stones, and spiritual items. Su Fong estimated that the resources in the storage ring were almost equivalent to the entire wealth of a peak over God expert. It was more than 100 times more abundant than the storage ring he obtained from killing the Ji people's expert, Ji Shixing. I didn't expect to make such a windfall. Su Fong was overjoyed. However, what he valued the most was a token and a saber-type magic treasure. The token was black and heavy. One side was engraved with the image of the main hall of the divine prison of heaven's law, while the other side was engraved with the image of a saber and shackles. It was the identity token of this expert. The saber-type divine weapon was a huge blade. It was heavy and extremely sharp. It emitted a strong, murderous aura and a chilling aura of the heavenly Tao. The blade was snow white, but the blade was pitch black. There were bloodstains on it, and the faint cries of vengeful spirits could be heard. There were 2 bloody words engraved on the hilt of the saber. God Slayer. It was a half-creation divine weapon. Moreover, it was a butcher's saber that was specially used for killing. Su Fong took out the saber, named God Slayer, from the storage ring. A fierce, murderous aura suddenly erupted from the saber. Then, like a silver river, it swept out from the saber. With a squelch, the huge spiritual altar was cut in half by the white saber radiance. It was like cutting through tofu. The defensive boundary on the spiritual altar was like a piece of paper. The shocking murderous aura caused the entire inside of the beheading punishment hall to fall silent. The shrieking and wailing primordial spirits were all so frightened that they could not make a sound. Just the saber radiance released by itself is already so terrifying. If it were to merge and unleash its full power, how shocking would that be? I'm afraid that an ordinary over God would be easily killed by it. Such power shocked Su Fong. He suddenly felt that the God Slayer saber in his hand was the incarnation of the Grim Reaper. I have many divine weapons, but not many of them are actually used for attack. My natal magic treasure is still in a nurturing state. This God Slayer saber can be used to make up for it. Su Fong first sealed the God Slayer saber and placed it in his body. Then, he began to merge with the token. A drop of blood, which also contained Su Fong's primordial spirit consciousness and the power of the yin-yang world, quickly merged with the token. The merging process was very smooth. It only took half an hour to completely merge with the token. Su Fong activated the token. A divine aura merged him with the entire beheading punishment hall, giving him the feeling that he could control the entire hall at will. Now, I should be able to come into contact with the primordial spirits being punished and understand what happened in the divine prison of heaven's law. Su Fong used the token's divine aura to penetrate his consciousness into one of the beheading platforms. Suddenly, Qi, an invisible force, landed on the primordial spirit of the cultivator. In an instant, it turned into a wisp of green smoke and was directly wiped out. How could this be? Su Fong was shocked and stunned. Is it the will of the divine prison of heaven's law? Or is someone controlling the power of the divine prison of heaven's law to directly wipe out this primordial spirit? Su Fong tried a few more times. The results were no exception. As soon as his consciousness penetrated the beheading platforms, the suppressed primordial spirit was immediately wiped out. It was really strange. The will of the divine prison of heaven's law, or the mysterious existence controlling the divine prison of heaven's law, obviously doesn't want me to know what happened in the divine prison of heaven's law. No matter what kind of existence it is, it obviously wants to hide something. The divine prison of heaven's law is definitely not as simple as it seems on the surface. Su Fong was on high alert. With a heart full of doubts, he left the beheading punishment hall. Next, Su Fong entered several side halls nearby. They were all punishment halls for punishing experts. Although the methods of punishment were different, all of them were cruel. In one of the punishment halls, Su Fong obtained another token. However, he did not merge with it. He also obtained a lot of resources. It could be said that his harvest was not small. Coming to the back of the main hall, Su Fong saw a side hall that was obviously different from the rest. This side hall was richly decorated and looked majestic. It exuded a supreme authority. It was obviously an important place in the divine prison of heaven's law. Su Fong walked into the main hall. The main hall of the main hall was not large. There was a black throne in the center. Luo Xingtian sat on the throne like a supreme ruler. Unexpectedly, Luo Xingtian came here directly after passing through the divine prison of heaven's law. Obviously, he had a plan. Su Fong's divine light swept around, taking in the scene in the main hall. The decoration inside the main hall was noble and luxurious. On the walls on both sides, there were 2 rows of empty display shelves. Obviously, they were all taken by Luo Xingtian. "Young Master Zhuolong, you're one step too late." Luo Xingtian laughed, looking at Su Fong with eyes full of pride. "If I kill you, everything you get will naturally belong to me." Su Fong said in a voice full of killing intent. "You want to kill me?" Shameless boasting. Luo Xingtian revealed a domineering smile. Then, he reached out with his right hand and grabbed a dark golden brush and a golden piece of paper. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, which was absorbed by the tip of the writing brush. In an instant, the writing brush became full. A stern and cold divine power of the heavenly way radiated from the writing brush. "I've obtained the prison-suppressing divine brush and am now the supreme ruler of the divine prison of heaven's law. I only need to write an edict to suppress you. Unless you've merged with the prison-suppressing codex, you'll be suppressed by me even if you have the strength of a peak over God." Chapter 2295. Luo Xingtian waved his brush and wrote a blood-red word, restrict. In an instant, the power of the divine prison of law was activated by Luo Xingtian's edict. An astonishing power of the heavenly Tao order surged out of the void and surged towards Su Fong from all directions. The powerful and cold power intertwined and condensed into fences, forming a cage that wanted to shackle Su Fong. Luo Xingtian entered this hall first and actually obtained such a good fortune and has such an amazing ability. Su Fong felt that the entire divine prison of law was mobilized to shackle him. He was surprised and shocked. Without hesitation, he activated the decapitation hall master token and at the same time erupted the aura of the fruit of sin and the power of the heavenly Tao order. Boom! Before the surrounding cage was completely formed, it was shaken by Su Fong's power and shattered. The word restrict that Luo Xingtian wrote on the golden paper emitted black smoke and actually burned. Taking advantage of the time when the cage was broken, Su Fong projected the power of the heavenly Tao order and the power of the yin-yang world. Then, his figure flashed and instantly flashed out of the hall. Chi! The golden paper burned with flames and turned into ashes. He can actually escape the power of the prison-suppressing divine brush. This young Master Zhuolong is indeed extraordinary. He even has the power of the divine prison of law. But the main reason is that I can't activate the full power of the prison-suppressing divine brush. Otherwise, he would definitely not be able to escape from my suppression. I wonder where this person came from. He's actually so extraordinary. I definitely can't let him live. This time, he's lucky. Next time, I'll definitely take his life. Luo Xingtian smiled domineeringly. It's time to enter the main hall. I have the prison-suppressing divine brush and the edict written with the bloodline of the Luo clan. I can easily enter the main hall and have other supreme uses. It's easy to get the prison-suppressing codex and the heaven supervisor token. Luo Xingtian grabbed the prison-suppressing divine brush and rolled out another golden paper. He wrote a long edict on it with his blood and will. Then he smiled proudly and put away the prison-suppressing divine brush and the edict. He swaggered out of the hall. 5 days later, Su Fong flashed into the hall. He had actually come back. After entering the main hall, he immediately used a formation to seal the door. Then, he looked at the screen behind the throne. His eyes were filled with greed. Luo Xingtian, you would never have thought that the real treasure in this hall isn't the prison-suppressing divine brush that you obtained, but this screen. Su Fong's eyes flashed with a bright light. On the screen, there were golden characters written in tadpole-like script, exactly the same as the 2 characters Law of Heaven on the plaque in the front hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law. Luo Xingtian, this idiot, actually can't see that this screen is a supreme treasure. In the entire divine prison of Heaven's Law, other than the prison-suppressing codex and the Heaven Supervisor token, there are probably only the words on this screen. No, these aren't words. They are the supreme law that contains the order of the heavenly Tao. The 2 words in the front hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law contain the laws and rules of the heavenly Tao. However, they were too profound and vague. With Su Fong's current realm, it was very difficult for him to fully comprehend them. The words on this screen, however, were clearer and more intuitive. These words could not be called words. Instead, they were the will of the supreme heavenly Tao left behind by the supreme experts of the universe on the screen. They were displayed in tadpole-like script. Although there were only a few words, they contained the order and law of the operation of the universe. For example, the order of the universe was a book. The 2 words Law of Heaven in the front hall of the divine prison of Heaven's Law were the title of the book, while the words on the screen were the general outline of the book. If I can fully comprehend these tadpole-like script, my ability to control the power of the heavenly Tao will be further improved. The world of my body will also contain more power of the heavenly Tao, and my realm will also rise to a higher level. Moreover, it will be easier to fuse with the 7-colored stone lotus. Perhaps there will be even more wonderful uses in the divine prison of Heaven's Law. In the beheading punishment hall, Su Fong felt more and more that the divine prison of Heaven's Law was dangerous and mysterious. If he could master the tadpole-like script on the screen, not only would his strength increase, but he would also have a powerful trump card in the divine prison of Heaven's Law. However, Luo Xingtian had already gone to the main hall. Su Fong did not have the time to fully comprehend it. He directly released his divine power and absorbed the entire screen into his body. Then, Su Fong shed his human skin and revealed his true appearance. He took out another human skin and activated the aura of the fruit of sin. It quickly fused with the human skin and turned into a middle-aged man. He had a square face and a curly beard. He looked bold and rough, and his cultivation level was only at the 3rd heavenly stage of the Tao fusing realm. Su Fong obtained a total of 3 human skins with the help of the Wood of Sin. As long as he fused with the human skins, his aura would change. Coupled with Su Fong's other abilities, even Luo Xingtian would not be able to recognize him. He removed the barrier at the entrance of the main hall and prepared to go straight to the main hall. Swoosh! Swoosh! One by one, experts flew over. It was a young man. He was the G people's 2nd patriarch. Su Fong's expression changed. Why is he here too? The King God experts had agreed that only Tao-fusing cultivators could pass through the path of heavenly law and enter the main hall. Experts who had surpassed the Tao-fusing realm were not allowed to enter the path of heavenly law. Who would have thought that the G people's 2nd patriarch would appear here? Moreover, the path of heavenly law was full of shocking shackles. With their strength, it was impossible for them to pass through the path of heavenly law in just a few days. The G people's 2nd patriarch glanced at Su Fong. Then he noticed that this side hall was different from the others. He immediately shouted, "Hand over the treasures you obtained in the hall, and I will spare your life." As soon as he finished speaking, a figure flashed out from behind the G people's 2nd patriarch. Whoosh! An astonishing divine power of the heavenly Tao broke through the layers of shackles in the divine prison of heavenly law and descended upon Su Fong. It turned out to be the hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit who had followed closely behind the Ji people's second patriarch. He actually wanted to directly suppress Su Fong. However, due to the shackles, his cultivation base was greatly suppressed. The strength he displayed now was, at most, at the peak of the ninth heaven of the Tao fusing realm. Sanskrit, how dare you be so domineering? A fierce aura surged in Su Fong's heart. He activated the token he had obtained in the beheading punishment hall. Together with the power of the heavenly Tao order, it swept out like a flash flood, sweeping away the divine power of the hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit. The hunchbacked old man and the Ji people's second patriarch's expressions changed. Su Fong snorted coldly. You want to seize my treasures? Let's see if you have the strength to do so. The hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit snorted. A mere third heaven of the Tao fusing realm, an ant-like existence, dares to be so arrogant in front of me? Since you still have some strength, hand over your treasures and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, Su Fong thought for a moment. Then he took out the hall master's token he had obtained in the beheading punishment hall. The eyes of the hunchbacked old man and the Ji people's second patriarch lit up at the same time when they sensed the extraordinariness of the token. I only have this token. It's fine if I don't want it. Senior from the Ji people, this token is for you. Su Fong absorbed the blood chi in the token into his body. Then, he shouted at the Ji people's second patriarch. Unexpectedly, Su Fong swept the token in the direction of the hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit. The hunchbacked expert was instantly overjoyed. He rolled up his sleeves and was about to put away the token. This token belongs to me. How dare you snatch it from me? The Ji people's second patriarch shouted domineeringly. A sound wave surged out and turned into a surging wave that rushed towards the old man from Sanskrit. The hunchbacked expert was shocked and angry. Second patriarch, if you dare to make me your enemy, you'll be making Sanskrit your enemy. You better think about the consequences. We, the Ji people, have always been on good terms with Sanskrit. How can we make Sanskrit our enemy? However, this treasure originally belonged to me. If you want to snatch my treasure, how can I swallow this humiliation? The Ji people's second patriarch chuckled and forced the hunchbacked expert to retreat. Then let's talk based on our strength. The hunchbacked expert from Sanskrit snorted coldly. He unleashed his divine aura and stood together with the Ji people's second patriarch. I'll throw a bone and let you dogs fight each other in order to snatch the token. The two king god experts engaged in an intense battle. Su Fong took the opportunity to leave quietly. Soon, he arrived at the front of the main hall. More than 1,000 people had gathered in front of the main hall's gate. There were still people rushing up from the path of heaven's law. Su Fongdao was shocked. He looked over. The powerful restriction on the path of heaven's law had disappeared. It had become an ordinary flight of stairs, allowing everyone to easily reach the main hall from the path of heaven's law. What happened? Su Fong was both shocked and stunned. Divine light swept through the crowd. When he saw Luo Xingtian sitting cross-legged in front of the main hall's gate with a smug smile, Su Fong immediately understood. Su Fong thought to himself, Luo Xingtian has the prison-suppressing divine brush and can control the power of the divine prison of heaven's law. It's not difficult for him to seal off the restriction on the path of heaven's law. But what's his intention for doing so? Su Fong was full of doubts. He retreated to a corner and sat cross-legged, planning to wait and see. At the same time, Su Fong peeled off a strand of his yang soul and entered his inner world. I need to hurry up and comprehend the tadpole characters on the screen. It turned out that he planned to comprehend the endless mysteries of the characters on the screen as soon as possible before entering the main hall. His yang soul sat cross-legged and used the heaven's divination eyes. His eyes flashed with a misty light that could see through all the mysteries of heaven as they fell on the screen. His main body was watching the movements outside the main hall. Time passed day by day. More and more cultivators came up from the path of heaven's law. They couldn't enter the main hall, so they went to the surrounding side halls to look for treasures. Su Fong also saw Tsang Yinhai coming up from the path of heaven's law with many Saint Temple guards. He immediately sent a message to Tsang Yinhai with his Yuan spirit, Lord Song Yin Hai, quickly take all the guards and leave the divine prison of heaven's law. Holy Sun Su Fong, why is this? Song Yin Hai sensed around but couldn't find any trace of Su Fong. He felt that Su Fong was more and more unfathomable. QL11 the divine prison of heaven's law, is extremely dangerous, and I suspect that the Luo clan is plotting something big. I don't need your help, so it's better to leave quickly. Then aren't you in great danger? It doesn't matter. Besides, this is a bet between me and Luo Xingtian. If I can't get the prison suppressing codex, I'll lose the bet. Therefore, I have to stay inside the divine prison of heaven's law. Saint, be careful. I'll wait for you outside the divine prison of heaven's law with many guards.